legend has fallen for sure. For the older generation, who can ever forget the contribution Ray Phiri has not just made to music, but to the struggle here in South Africa. Elvis, true icon, he's gone.
Heartfelt soul music coming from Ray Phiri, and he was a true icon indeed. I mean, who can forget?
We all grew up to the sounds of Ray Phiri, all grew up to the sounds of this man crooning the blues South African style.
Yeah, it's our generation, the older guys that will know Ray Phiri. I spoke to some young people a little bit earlier and they told me, yes, our parents used to listen to him. So it kind of encapsulates a moment in time. 70 years old, passed away overnight of lung cancer, peacefully. Rest in peace, we will never forget.
Our condolences to the family of Ray Phiri and of course all his fans, nationwide, countrywide, continental-wide and worldwide.
Absolutely. But the great man will tell you the show always goes on. And today, here on the Newsroom show, well, we're dealing with issues of derelict buildings, hijacked buildings, and we'll talk to all the stakeholders about this, Elvis. But we're asking a question following on what the Mayor, Herman Mashaba, told us.
Yeah, Herman Mashaba said there is the buildings in Johannesburg which have been occupied by illegal foreigners, and of course human rights lawyers are stopping his progress in order to make sure that these buildings are safe. So that's why we're asking the question for you this morning, Kendall.
How do we deal with illegal immigrants occupying buildings in our cities is what we find out. Want to find out from you.
Guys are tweeting us already. Let's just have a look at a couple of those tweets as we talk to the issue. This one from Atini Mbena that says, get rid of illegal immigration no matter where it's coming from. Is that you need to have a good legal apparatus for immigration. I think that's what the Mayor told us.
That's correct. This one coming from Calvin says, what would have happened if it was South African people found in any other country with no papers? Well, I can tell you they will be deported.
They'll be sent back for sure.
Collins Ntelele says illegal immigration should be attributed to corruption at the borders. Greedy officials let them in and they all flock to Johannesburg.
Collins, we also have a lot of holes in our fence. It's also become business to bring people from other nations into South Africa illegally. I think it's something that we're all aware of. It's a problem we all have to deal with. But Elvis, the person in South Africa that's been in the news has been the public protector the last 24 hours. A lot of pronouncement, typos, and lots of stuff been going on.
Well, the public protector has opposed the President Jacob Zuma's attempts to block the establishment of that judicial commission, but of course also the blunder that she made with regards to the Reserve Bank. So we're asking you this morning, these are the two issues at hand. Do you have confidence in the work of the new public protector?
Amazing, 252 votes already in, 77% say no.
That's a bit of an indictment, and you should be concerned. That's a fair poll of what South Africans are thinking with regards to the work of the public protector up to now. But you guys are also tweeting us with regards to that, as it's been, well, in the news the last 24 hours. In the big story, Katlego tells us if she can prioritize every case involving Zuma, Gupta and ministers implicated on the Gupta leaks, then I will have confidence. She seems to be confused, says Katlego.
Matthew says, nobody is perfect. What is important is to learn from your mistake and do the right thing. And Mrs. Mkabane did exactly that, says Matthews.
Jeremy, and he says, no, it seems as if she's on a leash. She might be taking orders from her master before pronouncing or retracting her statements.
Keep tweeting us, guys. Keep telling us what you think and go to the poll and vote so that we can have a fair idea of what's the mood like in South Africa with regards to the public protector. But we've also got a sports question, of course, and sad news really not for Lonwabo Tsotsobe, but for the many young players in South Africa that should have been influenced by him.
100%. Lopsi Lonwabo Tsotsobe, once I've seen the #1 ODI ball in the world, banned for 8 years for attempted match fixing in the Ram Slam T20. Definitely sad news for a lot of aspirant cricketers. We want to find out from you, what do you make of that ban?
Yeah, some say it's tough, others say it should have been a life ban. Anyhow, it's a difficult one. Tweet us on the question, the sports question of the day. But Wednesday morning, we've got lots going on. Let's get straight into our top stories with Elvis.
Legendary jazz musician Ray Phiri has passed away in a Nelspruit hospital in Mpumalanga. The public protector, Busisiwe Mkhwebane, has opposed President Jacob Zuma's attempts to block the establishment of a judicial commission of inquiry into state capture. And the Deputy President, Cyril Ramaphosa, addresses the SACP National Congress in Boksburg today. We'll probably go there live as soon as that happens. Now, those are some of your headlines, but before we get to the news, let's find out from Kendall Makhamate what's happening on the sports front.
Elvis, thank you very much. Good morning to you. This is what we've got for you in the sports today.
Oh, goodness! Where's that gone?
Lonwabo Tsotsobe, once ranked the #1 ODI bowler in the world, has been banned for corruption in the Ramslam T20.
The ageless Venus Williams at the age of 37 for another Wimbledon semi-final.
Johanna Konta, the five-time champ Venus Williams, sets another milestone as she wins her 100th singles match at Wimbledon to waltz into the semi-finals.
Well, a month on from Paris, there will be no London fairy tale for Yelena Ostapenko, but Venus Williams continuing to take care of business.
We can then build the win-win-win situation we are all longing for.
In a shrewd compromise move, the IOC makes the watershed decision to award the 2024 and 2028 Olympics at the same time come September. All this in more detail. We've got you at 10:40. Do stay with us as Elvis has got the news.
Thank you, Kendall. You've heard it in our opening of our news. Breaking news this morning is that the legendary jazz musician Ray Phiri has passed away in a Nelspruit hospital in Mpumalanga. The 70-year-old Phiri was admitted to hospital a few days ago, battling lung cancer. According to SA History Online, Phiri got his first break in 1962 when he danced for the legendary Dark City Sisters when they performed in the Eastern Cape. He made enough money to fulfill his ambition to travel to Johannesburg. He became a founding member of the 1970s soul music group, The Cannibals. When The Cannibals disbanded, he founded Stimela, Steam Train, with whom he produced gold and platinum-winning albums like Fire, Passion and Ecstasy. Look, Listen and Decide, as well as the very controversial People Don't Talk. So, let's talk. Phiri was part of the 8-month-long Graceland tour, a global trek headed by the American singer Paul Simon. On the 27th of April 2011, President Jacob Zuma conferred Phiri with the Order of Ikamanga in silver for his contribution to the South African music industry and the successful use of the arts as an instrument of social transformation. Now, for more on this story, we now cross live to our reporter, Sibongile Mkani Mpolweni, who is at the Mediclinic in Nelspruit, Mbombela, where Ray Phiri died. A very good morning to you and welcome, Sibongile.
Good morning, Elvis, on this somber mood here at the hospital. Yes, indeed, the great legend has fallen, has bowed out gracefully. Last night we were here with the MECs of Health, acting Premier. They came here to see him, not knowing that they were actually saying goodbye to him. We had asked to also come and into his ward and see him, but his daughter, who was here, asked us nicely that we could give him privacy. It is what he wanted, Ray, and we did that. We left here around about 9 p.m. last night, with his daughter going home, not knowing that today we would wake up to such sad news. But to tell us more on when he was admitted to hospital and when he passed on, we've got the hospital spokesperson, Robin. Robin, good morning. Just tell us briefly.
Hi, good morning. Yes, indeed, it is a sad day. Mr. Phiri passed away in the early hours of this morning, around about 3:25, and that was after a short stay of plus minus 2 weeks at the hospital.
And what is the family saying?
Well, you know, it was his express wishes to have absolute privacy, and just in terms of confidentiality, respect to him, the family just want to say, thank you to South Africa and for the people that have prayed for him. They're in deep shock and obviously deep grief this morning as they wake up, and yes, we just pleased to respect those wishes.
Thank you, Elvis. Yes, indeed, that was Robin from the hospital. Mr. Phiri was loved by many, especially in his province and in South Africa at large. He was the chairperson of the Mpumalanga Arts and Culture here in Mpumalanga. But to tell us more on his work with the department, we've got Sibongile from the department, just to tell us the role that he played in terms of artists and what he did in Mpumalanga and uplifting young artists in the province and his role within the department. Sibongile, sorry to just drag you like that, but last night we spoke lengthily about Ray, his music, his contribution to the province. Just tell us some of the things that he did for the department.
I must say that we are saddened by the news. We were here last night with the MEC and the delegation from the provincial government. Ray Phiri was a legend. He was very instrumental to the artists of this province. We're really saddened. He participated in the Mpumalanga Arts and Culture Council as the chairperson. That is the body that advises the MEC on issues of arts and culture. He also represented the province in the National Arts Council, representing the province. So he played a very crucial role in the arts and culture industry. And then last year, the province introduced a cultural festival. He was part of that festival in the inaugural festival in the province. So we've lost a legend, a person that was assisting our artists, but he has run his race. We pass our condolences to the family.
Yes, I understand. I caught you off guard, and with the news coming in this morning and you being here last night, I understand the anxiety and everything. But just tell us more about what he would say at the office, things that you remember about him.
He was a very humble person. He used to call us those that are over that age. He would say Sibongile, the MEC. So he was a very humble person, and he was excited yesterday to see the leadership. So he was planning to work with the province for years to come. So he was a very humble person. We've lost a legend, we've lost a giant, we've lost someone that was very instrumental to our artists. So we say condolences to the family, condolences to the people of Mpumalanga and other artists.
Yes, that was Sibongile from the Department of Arts and Culture. They worked very closely with Ray, and just lamenting the good nature and the bubbly personality that he had. I spoke earlier about when I met him at the garage in Middelburg early this year. He was just stopped there at the garage, and some guys at the garage, the petrol attendants, went up to him, wanted to take photos. Some asked him to sing, and some asked him to do his funny dance moves. And he was singing and he was dancing and we were all laughing. That's just the kind of person that he was. Even last night when he was here, many people were turned away by his daughter because people, as soon as they heard the news and they heard that he was admitted at this hospital, they came rushing to see him because he was that kind of a person. He was that celebrity who didn't take the celebrity status into his head, if I may say. He was just an ordinary person who embraced everyone, young and old, who came to him. Even local artists would reach out to him. He would play at Kasambo on Sundays. Here in Nelspruit, he would be there and he would be singing and he would be chatting to everyone. He was just a bubbly personality, full of life. That is Ray Phiri. We will be heading to his home now. The spokesperson for the family is also coming from Joburg to Nelspruit. Once he has arrived, then they will be able to tell us in terms of arrangements for the memorial service as well as the funeral, Elvis.
Sibongile Mkhani Mpolweni, thank you so much for that update, and definitely will be sorely missed in this country, in the music industry. Ray Phiri, a certain legend. Who would forget? Swagala. Now he's been recalled. Ray Phiri. Now, let's move on to other news. The Public Protector Busisiwe Mkhwebane has opposed President Jacob Zuma's attempts to block the establishment of a judicial commission of inquiry into state capture. The president has gone to court, arguing that remedial action proposed by the previous public protector, Thuli Madonsela, is unconstitutional. Mkhwebane disagreed with the president that remedial action should not be taken until he has had a chance to clear his name. She says the president had publicly expressed his support for the establishment of the commission. A decision come a day after she admitted she had no right to ask for the Reserve Bank's constitutional mandate to be changed. And on that note, we are asking you that question. Do you have confidence in the work of the new public protector? That's on our poll this morning. Let's take a look what the numbers are suggesting. 280 votes in. Well, just over 3/4 of you are saying you do not have confidence in the work of the new public protector. 24% are saying yes. We'll take a look at some of your comments a little bit later. Meanwhile, the Minister of Communications, Minister Dlodo, will be the keynote speaker and then join a panel during the opening session of this year's convention that will examine business opportunities across a variety of sectors, including tourism, energy, healthcare and telecommunications, while analyzing the broader US-Africa trade policies. The minister will later be honored with the Rainbow Push Coalition's Leadership and Humanitarian Award for her work in fighting poverty in South Africa. But right now, today, we are asking you that question in relation to our theme today, and we're asking you, how do you think we should deal with illegal immigrants occupying buildings in our city? That's the question we have for you. Let us know on the Twitter handle as well as on the Facebook page. To start that conversation, let's go over to Eben.
Yeah, Elvis, thank you very much. A very good morning to you if you have just joined us. Yes, the Mayor of Johannesburg, Mr. Herman Mashaba, he says the city is facing many challenges with regards to this, which include limited resources. Now, he says most occupants of hijacked buildings, as they call it, are illegal foreign nationals who've nowhere to go. As follows reports at the Cape York building in central Johannesburg belong to the Bank of Mozambique. The owners of the building left the country several years ago. 7 people were killed following the fire there. Mashaba also said that resolving housing problems is the responsibility of national government. The residents claim to have no alternative accommodation. And now to talk to us about this, well, we are joined in studio by the MMC for Development Planning here in the city, Mr. Funzela Ngobeni, and Advocate Victoria Ramala, who's going to give us a legal perspective on these matters. Very good morning to you guys.
Morning.
Mr. Ngobeni, if I can start with you. If you can give us a quick overview with regards to the problem of hijacked buildings and then where the city is right now in its attempts to resolve this problem.
Yes, Eben, thank you very much for inviting us. Before I give you a response to that, let me take this opportunity to convey our condolences to the family of a great legend, Ray Phiri. We've just learned that he passed away. You know, as a city of Johannesburg, we pass our condolences to the family of Ray Phiri. We also pass the condolences to the music fraternity and the people of South Africa. Indeed, we have lost a legend, but he has made a contribution, and we are very grateful for what he has done for South Africa. Even look, when we came in as a new administration, we identified a few things that we wanted to do in our 10-point plan. And if you remember, one of the things that we identified that we wanted to do is we said we wanted to grow the economy, at least by 5% by 2021. And we also said, we need to deal with the issues of housing, and we have to make sure that we create jobs. We have seen that actually the inner city of Johannesburg, as one of the economic nodes in the city of Johannesburg, has capacity for us to be able to help us in achieving all these goals, the ones that I've just mentioned. And we have identified the inner city as one of those nodes that will be able to assist us to create jobs, but also assist us to ensure that we house our people. Because in Johannesburg alone, we've got a backlog of over 300,000 in terms of housing. Yeah. So we have identified inner city as one of the places that you can be able to assist us. So we have a problem. We've got a lot of buildings in the inner city that have been hijacked. Some of them are privately owned, and indeed some of them are owned by government. And those buildings have capacity, they've got infrastructure that we can be able to use efficiently to house our people. So we've managed to identify some of these buildings. We are already on the ground, and we are trying to identify owners. We are trying to see that we can be able to get people who are occupying them into alternative accommodation. But we are also speaking to the private sector, because remember, as government alone, we won't be able to resolve the issues of the inner city. So we are inviting private sector to come along so that we can be able to see that once we have identified this building, we have moved people into alternative accommodation, then we can give these buildings to private sector to be able to give it to our people so they can be able to be accommodated as part of low-cost housing that we think we can be able to resolve the housing issue with.
Advocate Ramala, I'd be interested to hear what you say, because the mayor has pointed out to us in an interview last week. He said part of the problem are human rights lawyers who are representing these people, and that's the reason why there can't be fast progress in dealing with this issue. How do you view that kind of statement first? And secondly, can you talk to us about the rights of these people occupying these buildings?
Okay, thank you very much again for inviting the City of Joburg to come and talk to the nation about this issue that is facing the City of Johannesburg. Firstly, I would like to say that what the executive mayor has indicated is purely, what he believes and what we see as the City of Johannesburg. To say that for us to can be able to tackle these issues, we would really need to have the support of the human rights lawyers. We understand what they stand for. However, our issue as the city is when you look at the squalor which these people are staying in, it is something that needs to be deliberated upon between ourselves as the city and the human rights lawyers to make sure that the people that are supposed to be receiving services from the City of Johannesburg receive the one that everyone will be actually be proud of. Our take really as the city is, we understand the constitutional obligations, we understand the rights of these people, but then how do we allow them to be staying in a squalor which they find themselves in? That is part of that, yeah.
Mr. Ngubeni, how do you intend to assist these families? I understand there's limited resources, there are lots of issues that the city is facing with regards to this, but these people need to be helped and this problem needs to be addressed. What course of action do you think we are going to see in the short and medium term?
Look, Eben, I'm very glad to have noticed that the national government and the provincial government are now coming to the party. I was happy to see MEC of Kokta, Paulo Mashatile, visiting one of the buildings and actually making a commitment that as a province, they are going to work with the City of Johannesburg in finding solutions to the problems in the inner city. These are problems that have emanated from a long time ago. These are not new problems. They have been there and we have allowed the situation to get to where it is now. So we need all spheres of government to work together. We need the police to come and help us. We need Home Affairs to work with us. We need social development to come in and also assist us. So like I said, one of the things that we are looking at is to work with the private sector to be able to come and assist us. In the what we are looking at, Eben, is to find alternative accommodation. Because like the advocate was saying earlier on, we've got the constitutional obligation of ensuring that when we move people from these buildings that are not habitable, at least we take them to an alternative accommodation where they will be able to be sheltered while we are renovating these buildings and making them ready for low-cost housing and for them to be able to afford them. Because the point is, most of these people who are living in these buildings are actually paying. They are paying a certain rent, but they are paying to somebody who doesn't actually pay taxes and doesn't actually pay for services. Yeah. So they end up these buildings being without water, without electricity, and so forth. So we need to be able to find accommodation that would our people will be able to afford. Yeah. We know that with the investigation that we've been doing, with all the verification that we've been doing in the buildings, some of the people are working. They are earning close between 3,000 and 5,000. So we should be able to find accommodation or come up with accommodation that they will be able to afford and they'll be able to pay. Yes.
Advocate, a lot of these people are said to be illegal foreign nationals who are occupying these buildings. Yes, we understand the drug dens and all these kinds of things in there, but talk to us about how do we view the illegal immigrants? And then what rights do they have with regards to our constitution?
Okay, thank you again. I believe that there's a rule of law in the country. And as the city of Johannesburg, we have always indicated, should I say the executive mayor has indicated several times, to say that as the city, we do not have issues with foreign nationals coming into the country, right? However, the issue is that when they get into the country or get access into the country, they need to be documented. What that means is that they need to be within or be also within the framework of the city of the country, meaning that they cannot be found to be people in the country whilst are not, under the actual legislation that is actually, governing the country as a whole. Basically, what I then am saying is that we cannot have a situation whereby being an undocumented is viewed as being correct. So them being in the country, us understanding that they're refugees, they're asylum seekers and so on and so forth, there is a legal framework that needs to be, abided with.
Mr. Ngobeni, I'm going to ask you to wrap it up for us, but I would like you to deal with the issue, of course, of illegal immigrants occupying these buildings, but also talk to us a little bit more about the backlog that you mentioned and how we're going to deal with this housing backlog.
Yes. No, absolutely. Look, I think Advocate has already said that as a city, we welcome the people of Africa, we welcome the people of the world to come and settle in the city of Johannesburg. I think that is a given. What we are saying is that it's important that people, when they come into the city and they come to the country, that they are properly documented. That's where Home Affairs come in. That's why I'm saying we need all spheres of government to come and assist us in terms of verifying the individuals that are and be able to. So with regards to the backlog, we have managed to put money aside in the budget that was approved, although it was not enough. But we've managed to put money aside for housing, and particularly for housing in the inner city. That will be dedicated to coming up with accommodation, low-cost accommodation in the inner city. But we have also identified that some of the people are actually asking us to give them site and services, which means we must give them land so that they can be able to build their own houses. That is a program that we have now implemented, we are implementing as a city, and it's also going to assist us in dealing with the backlog. But I cannot overemphasize the importance of province, because province actually and national are the custodian of housing and human settlement in the country. So we need to get them to come in and assist us and make the budget available so that we can be able to really move forward in terms of creating houses for our people. And again, private sector is quite key. We have received quite a very good reaction from the private sector. People are coming in and saying, we want to assist. Where do we start? So in the next few months, next weeks, the mayor will launch the program. Will then engage with the private sector and make it clear as to how they can be able to access these buildings, and then they can be able to assist us in renovating them and making them available for our people. Thank you very much.
I thank you very much for joining us today. That's the MMC for Development Planning, Mr. Funzela Ngobeni, and Advocate Victoria Ramala, talking to us about the issues facing the city with regards to what we've now become known as the hijacked buildings and the illegal occupation thereof. Of course, lives have been lost already because there's simply no services available in these buildings. Anyhow, we're asking you, the viewer, how do you view this? How do we deal with this issue? They call it illegal immigrants occupying buildings in our cities. You guys are tweeting us on this question. Let's have a look at what you are telling us. Vote 2018 says to us the following: whatever is to be done, let it not lead to xenophobia. Yes, all of our officials have a responsibility to be very careful about the utterances that they make. We've seen what has happened in the past here in South Africa. Onuka Christian tells us, too pathetic. They are economic migrants, fellow black Africans. Screen and rehabilitate those without criminal records. Yes, we have to be out of the box for sure. Lubuyo Noshe says to us, arrest and deport. That's too simplistic. The numbers are simply too big, too large for us to deal with. We need alternative. We need alternatives than simply just trying to throw people out, I think. need to come together to deal with this issue. Anyhow, I just want to show you some live pictures coming in from the 14th Congress. That's the SACP Congress. Here you see these live pictures are coming in from Boksburg. We expect Deputy President Cyril Ramaphosa to address the delegates there in a short little while. I saw him on stage already. He's sitting with Bladen Zimandi and Jeremy Cronin of the top leadership of the SACP. He will address this gathering shortly. When he does, we will go there live and bring you that speech. Anyhow, right now, let's take a look at what's on our social media feeds. We'll start with the death, of course, of the late great musician Ray Phiri, who died after a long battle with lung cancer. In sport, the cricketer Lonwabo Lopsi Tsotsobe has been banned for 8 years after it was found that he was involved in corruption and match fixing in cricket. Then, further afield, around 20 people in Suleja in Nigeria have been killed by floods in the area there. Houses have been damaged or washed away, and people have had to leave their cars in the heavy flood waters. Then, one of London's top trends is Wednesday wisdom. So here is a little bit of that motivation. The expert in anything was once a beginner. So don't be afraid to start new things and try new things. You might just surprise yourself. Now, our picture of the day comes from BET Africa and is captioned, "What a loss. Rest in peace, Ray Phiri. Through your music, you never missed a beat. May it live on forever." Now for our comment of the day. Of course, everyone has a view on this matter. It's about the hashtag public protector, who says, "So whilst we're already in junk status, the economy took a further knock because of a typo." Yes, that's the most recent one on social media. Followed up, you might surprise yourself. Anyhow, tomorrow on this show, we will look at the death penalty and whether it should be reinstated here in South Africa. Now, you've heard the calls at the NPC last week of the ANC. The Women's League came out and said they want, well, especially sex criminals to be dealt with more harshly. Tomorrow, we'll talk about this at length. Don't miss it. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we'll continue talking about what is happening in our inner cities.
And poverty did not deter Mpumi's success.
Being an orphan or coming from poverty or having seen what HIV and AIDS does to a person that you love takes nothing away from you. It means that you are part of a selective few who have had to face a very, very marginalized struggle.
Abuse is a lonely journey that needs compassion.
I came across as a very confident, ambitious person, but behind that mask was somebody who had serious anxiety problems, a person who had knots in their stomach continuously, a person who could be in company and would feel very lonely.
Being away from his birth country did not stop his hunger to succeed.
Boxing was the way out. Turning professional would give me an income. That was the solution to the problems I've had for so many years.
For more inspiring stories, join Bupalong every Friday at 17:30.
Kilimanjaro, majestic and mysterious. 27 climbers. 5,895 meters. 5 days. Trekking in honor of Madiba and for underprivileged schoolgirls. In just 5 years, millions of sanitary towels have been distributed countrywide. The target to reach 2 million needy girl children by 2020.
It's time that as men, we must actually pick one sanitary pack.
We can touch one girl through this initiative.
SABC News will again be documenting the arduous expedition. The climbers have one goal in mind: To pledge support for a month's supply of sanitary pads, SMS Gillian or Tabo M to 42513. The South African team hopes to summit Uhuru, Africa's highest peak, on Madiba's birthday, July 18th.
Now, continuing our theme on hijacked buildings in Johannesburg, the city of Johannesburg. Now, you know that 7 people were killed following a fire at the Cape York building in central Johannesburg, and joined now by the councillor, Nokotula Kaba. A very good morning to you, ma'am, and welcome.
Good morning.
First and foremostly, the buildings that's occupied in the CBD, especially the one that just burned down. You work underground. How big is the problem of illegal buildings or buildings being occupied by illegal foreigners?
The problem is immense. Very much big.
Mm-hmm. What does that mean?
It means it's so big to an extent that it seems as if there is no control at all.
Mm. Are you suggesting that the majority of buildings that's empty in the city has been occupied by illegals?
They are occupied, all of them. Mm. Even those who were sometimes closed down, they break them through and enter the buildings. Mm. You will remember very well that one of the buildings, I think last year, if not 2015, mm-hmm. the building that was in flames, where 2 officers, EMS officers, died. It was due to that.
Yeah. Most of the buildings being occupied, is it illegal foreigners occupying or migrants occupying them, or is it South Africans?
It's illegal migrants, South Africans, and everyone.
So it's a mixture of both?
Yes.
But what are you doing as a city? What plans do you have in place in order to deal with these hijacked buildings? Because some are suggesting that they've been hijacked.
Most of them, they are hijacked, in fact. Mm. Let me give you a bit of modus operandi.
Yes.
It takes time for one to know that the building has been hijacked. Mm. You'll have the owner, the original owner of the building. Then you will employ a building manager. Then it will be like, okay, somewhere along the line, the owner of the building maybe relocates, leaving the manager to manage the building. The problem will be when maintenance is supposed to be done. Maybe the main lifts, then the problem starts, whereby you will find that the very same occupants within, they will start formulating committees. There will be Committee A opening their own account. Committee B will be opening account. Those who are loyal, they will continue paying. Thus, they will be victimized, thrown out of the building. Even the manager itself end up on the street. And it takes time up until when there is no removal of garbage. Mm-hmm. Then you realize now that there is a problem. Mm. That is the modus operandi.
Let's look at the building that burned down, the Cape York building. This building, we believe, was owned by the Bank of Mozambique.
Definitely, yes.
And then what happened? The same modus operandi that you just described? Is that what happened?
With that building, it was owned by the bank. So how did it came that being occupied by people? I am not certain. Mm-hmm. But the fact of the matter is, like I'm a ward councillor, I call public meetings. When I call public meetings, when you're talking about housing, the faceless people will attend public meetings so that they are glued to the information that you are giving to the residents. Mm. That building, that was 2013 in August, when 4 people died in that building with the very same issue of the building that is in flames. Whilst I was on the street, the residents were now flocking to me to say, Councillor, the building is in flames, but there is this particular person who's demanding 1,500. So how could we pay if the building is in flames. I then said to them, can you please go and open cases? Because they were on SMSs. Immediately saw that particular person, he was like around. I then indicated to the police to say, this particular person is around. He was arrested. Within an hour, he was out. I phoned the police station, Central Police Station, to say exactly what is happening. Fair enough. When they responded, they said, okay, Councillor, we have arrested this particular person. Who's opening the case?
Okay, now, Councillor, the building has burned down. What have you done with the residents that were in this particular building after the fire? Have you provided them with alternative accommodation? And is it your responsibility as a City of Joburg to do that?
The accommodation, there are tents, which are erected at Wembley Stadium as we speak now from the province. It is both the province and the local government. Remember, I'm a ward councillor. The council is divided maybe into three. There is legislative as a ward councillor belonging there. There is executive, that is the mayor and the executive committee, that is pure. There is pure administrative side of it. So the decisions in whatever, I can take issues, and in the very simple thing that I'm talking about, I communicated through the council. I wrote something to say there is a dire situation in that building. The response to the MMC in black and white said there is nothing we can do because the property is privately owned.
Now, because these are illegal migrants, as you indicated earlier, occupying this building.
Not all illegal migrants.
Yeah, but if there are illegal migrants, is it the responsibility of the city to look after them as well, or is it only the South Africans that you're looking, or the documented migrants that is there?
In fact, here, there should be a multi-approach from the departments. All departments must work on this. If they are undocumented, the Home Affairs must come to the fore, of which we have communicated with Home Affairs to say there is this situation.
What now next, Councillor, because we're running out of time, for these occupied buildings in the city that you said it's a dire situation?
They're in a dire situation. First and foremost, my take is that crime intelligence must investigate, because the modus operandi here, there are faceless people who are busy in those. So I think crime intelligence should assist in this, because you will be dealing with these buildings. Still, they are going to be occupied, whether we like it or not. Yes.
Councillor, I thank you so much. We can talk another hour, but that's where we got to leave it. Thank you so much for your time and joining us here.
Thank you.
That was Councillor Nokuthula Kaba talking to us about the extent of the hijacked buildings in the city of Johannesburg. She says it is dire. It seems like there's a mafia at stake here, or at work. We'll take a short break. We'll continue this after the break.
Kilimanjaro, majestic and mysterious. 27 climbers. 5,895 meters. 5 days. Trekking in honor of Madiba and for underprivileged schoolgirls. In just 5 years, millions of sanitary towels have been distributed countrywide. The target to reach 2 million needy girl children by 2020.
It's time that as men, we must actually pick one sanitary pack.
We can touch one girl through this initiative.
SABC News will again be documenting the arduous expedition. The climbers have one goal in mind. To pledge support for a month's supply of sanitary pads, SMS Gillian or Tabo M to 42513. The South African team hopes to summit Uhuru, Africa's highest peak, on Madiba's birthday, July 18th.
Welcome back. Johannesburg Mayor Herman Mashaba has blamed human rights lawyers for the delay in evacuating and refurbishing hijacked buildings in downtown Johannesburg. Mashaba has made an appeal to the government and in particularly the police to help make sure that hijacked buildings are cleaned out. Our lawyers for human rights, Representative Tarisai Magunyani, joins us in studio to talk about the issue regarding inner city buildings. Very good morning to you and thanks for being with us.
Good morning and thank you for having me.
The mayor accused the likes of yourself for the delay in dealing with and evacuating and, must add, refurbishing hijacked buildings in the city. How do you view that?
We're greatly concerned. We are perturbed that an important office is the mayor, which represents a specific level of government responsible for ensuring that housing is provided, basic services are provided for the citizens and the residents of the city of Johannesburg, says such unfounded allegations. It's concerning and it worries us, and it calls to the fact that is he aware of the nature of his office and to what extent is he well versed with the provisions of the very office that he serves.
Now, we are told that it's the illegal occupation of these buildings by undocumented or illegal foreign nationals or migrants that's the problem, or the biggest part of the problem in the city. From your point of view, is that true?
This is incorrect and it's unfounded. We do not condone, obviously, illegal immigrants in the country. However, we are of the view that the law should take its course, so process should be followed. So in ensuring that there are undocumented foreign nationals in the country, there are steps that should be taken to ensure either they are documented or in terms of how they are then removed from the country. The law should be followed there. We also need to understand that there's a greater need and a greater issue arising within the city of Joburg now, which is urban migration. And this is where South African citizens migrate from the different provinces they come from and come to the city to look for employment. So it gives it gives a greater need for housing within the city itself. So it's a various group of nationals, South Africans and non-South Africans, and we can't say all of them are illegal immigrants.
So you say that it's grossly unfair to make this an illegal immigration problem?
Yes, I think it is. I think we need to look at what are the actual key issues here. And I think one, it's poverty. Two, it's the need for job creation. Three, there's a need for housing. Without having looked at who falls within each category, we need to look at where the issues are rising from, and it's a systematic challenge that is here right now.
Now, the mayor believes it's quite simple. These back buildings need to be evacuated, and then the police, of course, have to deal with the problem, and then these buildings have to be refurbished in order to create the housing that's so direly lacking. Is that the solution?
No, I think the mayor needs to look at, and I think I need to not just say the mayor. I think state entities, municipalities, not just the city of Johannesburg, but any other municipality needs to look at this. Once you have identified the need to either evacuate a building for safety and health concerns, you need to look into what is the process you're undertaking to evacuate those people. That's one. You now need to look into where are you going to place these people, and that's the second. And to what extent and to what length are you going to house these people and where? So I think this is where the challenge is, and maybe it makes the mayor uncomfortable, but there is a constitutional obligation here for the municipality to provide alternative accommodation in situations of emergency and further.
Let's talk quickly about the Cape York building. Are you happy with the services or the way that the victims of these fire and the people who've been evacuated out of this building, have they been given adequate accommodation, and are they looked after in a humanitarian kind of way that's acceptable to you?
I think there's a need for more care with regards to how the Cape York building residents have been handled. We understand, and from what the previous speaker mentioned, that they have provided what we call emergency housing, which is the tents that have been put up.
Yeah.
But now the second concern becomes, are they being provided with emergency sanitation services where they currently are? The second being, whilst this building is being evaluated and refurbished, what is then the alternative, suitable alternative accommodation they are going to be given? Because they obviously cannot stay in tents for the remainder of, winter and until the building has been refurbished.
Quickly, you can just wrap it up by telling me about how do you view these kinds of utterances that are made around undocumented and illegal foreign nationals, and what are the responsibilities of office bearers with regards to this?
I think that, they for people who are, for the lay person, such utterances give rise to, issues of xenophobia and things of that nature, that in future, anyone who holds public office needs to be careful in how they utter things. At the same time, we need to ensure that the public office bearers deal with the issue of either illegal immigrants, housing in the manner in which that it should, and which is follow the due process of the law.
Well, Teresaya, thank you for joining us here today and talking about, the issues of derelict and hijacked buildings in South Africa's inner cities, because it's a problem, that's, come to the surface in Johannesburg, but it's also happening elsewhere in South Africa. What are the rights? Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Absolute pleasure. That's from Lawyers for Human Rights, Teresaya Magunyani. Now, of course, we're asking you the question of the day. How do we deal with this problem? It's been put forward. The problem has been called illegal immigrants occupying buildings in our cities. What are you saying? Let's have a look at a couple of your tweets with regards to this. Now, Katlejo says, owners of those buildings should sell them to government so they can be renovated and used to accommodate South African citizens. Illegal immigrants should be deported, says Katlejo. Mtunzi says, Newsroom, we don't have proper control in our border posts and our national laws are not effective, says Mtunzi. Dr. Prince Shaka says to us, immigrants have to abide and respect the laws of the land. Host cities officials to enforce relevant law and order as per safety and security measures. Wonderful. Keep your contributions coming. This is Newsroom. This is your platform. Now, we're going to wrap up this hour by taking a look at, news that's broken in the last 24 hours. South Africa, Cricket South Africa, that is. The banned former Proteas and Half-Out Lions player Lonwabo Tsotsobe for several breaches of the anti-corruption code for its personnel. Now, 10 breaches of the code. That was Lopsy, as he was popularly known. He got an 8-year ban from all cricket. Kendall is here to talk about this. Morning to you, Kendall.
Good morning. It would have been good had it not been about this news. Look, it's been some time coming because he was suspended back in April. We were expecting something to come of it. Remember when we spoke to Alvaro Peterson earlier on a couple of months ago, he did mention that there were 1 or 2 other players that were still going to come out news about them. And this is quite sad. Lopsy, basically, he was one of those up-and-coming bowlers who sort of lost his way along the way. And
he was a very popular player here in South Africa. People really liked him across the board.
Yeah, they did. He 4 wickets at the Waka. That's not common. And he did it. And I think he had a lot of potential, and so did Cricket South Africa thought he had a lot of potential. He lost his way, and he's gone and got himself caught with his hands in the cookie jar.
Yeah, but it talks to players being susceptible to this kind of thing. I read his statement and he said, he was in financial difficulty and it seems as if this was a way to deal with this problem. That's not good enough, is it?
You know what, even I think it's not necessarily good enough, but I think if you look at the bigger picture, it might be part of a bigger picture where the insecurity surrounding cricketers who are not white in South Africa. I think I'll go a little further than that, because what guarantee does he have to become a TV pundit when he's done with his career, to become a coach, you know, that kind of thing. So I think there's a lot more that needs to be discussed around this kind of topic than just he was caught.
Yeah, and it's too simplistic, because it's been quite a few of the black cricketers that have been
6 of the 7
implicated. 6 of the 7. So that in itself tells a story, or kind of creates a narrative around this. And there's a lot more work to be done. But it seems as if at times this is too uncomfortable a topic to address in the open, it seems.
Yeah, I think we should do it. Yeah, but I think let's help our viewers along, and let's help all these cricketers along, and let's do something about this, and let's start talking about it and getting some advice for aspirant cricketers on what to do next.
Absolutely. It's a great loss for South African cricket to have a guy like Lonwabo Tsotobe having absolutely no interaction with young cricketers for the next 8 years, because he didn't even accept money. He was, about to. And several other breaches, of course, for the code, but that's the way it is. Thanks, Kendall.
Yeah, no, it's a pleasure, and I'm hoping that we can get to the bottom of all this very soon.
There you go. We're gonna take a little break. We'll be back with you at the top of the hour. Don't forget to tweet us. We've got lots of questions to you today. We're asking about the derelict buildings, but also about how you view the public protector. At the top of the hour, we'll give you a look at that poll, also your tweets. See you then.
Your evening well-informed with primetime news.
Thanks for tuning in. You're watching SABC News Prime. The burning land reform issue was also a point of discussion on the first day.
If you do not have a skills revolution, you will run into the kind of problems that we're having at the moment.
We have funded about 466,000 students, out of about 800,000 students that are in the university system.
South Africa says insufficient electricity and water remains one of the biggest barriers to development and prosperity on the continent.
The top 4 batsmen in the squad, Hashim Amla, Quinton de Kock, Faf du Plessis and AB de Villiers, are certainties in the starting lineup.
I really believe we cover all bases when it comes to spin bowling, seam bowling, proper pace bowling, and an amazing batting lineup.
Stay tuned every Monday to Sunday from 6 p.m.
We're shooting a campaign. We're telling genuine stories from real people that have been affected by the SABC. It's also interesting to get the backstory in terms of their dreams to be on screen and eventually getting the pleasure to do that. And understanding that they're communicating on a platform that speaks to millions of people. It speaks to how the SABC can fulfill its mandate.
The SABC represents the opportunity for so many young South Africans, for old South Africans, to be able to look at the world that they may not experience any other way.
People should continue to pay their TV license because it allows the SABC to bring quality programming.
The TV license is really part of the lifeblood of the channel and the corporation.
When you're listening to your favorite jams, you're listening to your favorite radio DJ, you must know that you made it possible by paying your TV license.
It's such a holistic process that goes into TV licenses. It's not only one part where we say South Africans have to pay for TV licenses. You pay a TV license because you get so much value out of it, and that's the content that you get every single day on the SABC platforms.
I have been in the film industry now for 51 years. I am quite satisfied with the evolution of television now, that you have got a lot of actors and you have got a lot of crew members. We should also play part of paying our licenses, because I think it's proper.
Yeah, we are live from the bright lights in the big city, the city of gold, Johannesburg, 10 o'clock Central African time. Very good morning to you. I'm with Kendall Mahamati. Kendall?
It's a very sad morning that wake up to Ray Phiri passing away, as well as also hearing news about Ramaphosa being banned by Cricket South Africa. But you know what? There's lots to cover today.
Yeah, there's lots to cover, and of course our focus today will have been on the issues around derelict buildings here in Johannesburg. Now the mayor, Herman Mashaba, he's blamed human rights lawyers for the delay in evacuating and refurbishing these what they call hijacked buildings. And we ask you, how do we deal with this issue? They also called it illegal immigrants occupying the buildings. Well, we've heard arguments to the contrary, actually, but let's see what you guys are tweeting us as we continue this conversation. Matlo Mola.
He comes in with economic migrants have homes, just not jobs. Bring in 8 agencies on this one. We want our cities to look 21st century.
Yeah, we do. Matlamola, you are right. Dr. Prince Shaka says to us, immigrants have to abide and respect the laws of the land. Host cities officials to enforce the relevant law and order as per safety and security measures.
And Mtunzi says we don't have proper control on our border posts and our national laws are not effective.
Yeah, keep tweeting us on that question. We'll continue until 12 o'clock. We'd love to hear what your views are. Of course, we have to respect the visitors to our country. Today in the news and in the crosshairs, some would say, Public Protector Busisiwe Mkhwebane, who's opposed President Jacob Zuma's attempts to block the establishment of a Judicial Commission of Inquiry into state capture. Of course, there's also on social media right now the issue around the typo with the previous report.
Oh yes, and that's exactly why we want to find out from you. Do you have confidence in the work of this new Public Protector? 357 votes in, lots of traction on this one. So early in the morning, 75% say no, they don't have confidence.
That should be very worrying for the new Public Protector, because in the end, public perception of that public office is what makes or breaks the tenure and the legacy, and it's maybe a bit too early to talk about that. Yes, that is where it's at. Do you have confidence in the work of the new Public Protector? 3/4 are saying no, but what are you guys writing us?
Amazulu Sutu says, I blame Tulima Densela. If Mkhwebane doesn't seem competent, she set the standard too high.
Ish. Sika Mundiko says to us, she got the law wrong and she can't even admit it. She was only trying to justify her decision. Yes, autocorrect. The typo, as it's now become known on social media.
Oh yes, or maybe even a hack. Mzwandi Limpanza says she doesn't know what she's doing and she doesn't understand the Constitution. Heavy indictments.
Tough from our viewers out there. You guys are not holding back, but that's the point. We are interacting with the stories of the day here. Keep it coming. Also, we're asking you a sports question. That's around Lonwabo Tsotsobe, 8-year ban. It's very difficult for any cricketer to come back from that kind of thing.
No, absolutely it is. He might be able to coach at a school at some point, maybe write a book, but we want to find out from you, what do you make of this 8-year ban that Lonwabo Tsotsobe has copped from CSA? Let's see what you say. You're tweeting us on this as well. Quite interested to see what your comments and thoughts on this are.
Ladlejo says they should have given him 50 years ban. We don't need fraudsters like him in any sport. They kill a raw talent and fair play. Match fixing is bad. 50 years.
Dipansu says, I hope he learns something out of this to associate with the right crowd. Sad indeed.
Yes, money is not everything. It seems it's becoming religion. Nazim says to us, Tsotsobe is not a bad person, but if you are associated with wrong people, you are one of them too. Yes, it's a simple thing. Your mother would have told you, show me who your friends are and I'll show you who you are in the end.
Too true.
Tough, firm, but fair. Anyhow, let's take a look now at our top stories. Legendary jazz musician Ray Phiri has passed away in a Nelspruit hospital in Mpumalanga at 3:25 a.m. this morning. Public Protector Busisiwe Mkhwebane has opposed President Jacob Zuma's attempts to block the establishment of a Judicial Commission of Inquiry into state capture. And Deputy President Cyril Ramaphosa set to address the SACP National Congress in Boksburg at some point this morning. Those are your top stories right now. Let's go over to Kendall to see what's happening in the world of sport.
Evan, thank you very much. Good morning to you. This is what we have for you in the sports today.
Oh, goodness! Where's that gone?
Lonwabo Tsotsobe, once ranked the #1 ODI bowler in the world, has been banned for corruption in the Ram Slam T20.
The ageless Venus Williams, at the age of 37, for another Wimbledon semi-final.
Five-time champion Venus Williams sets another milestone as she wins her 100th singles match at Wimbledon to waltz into the semi-finals.
Well, a month on from Paris, there will be no London fairy tale for Yelena Ostapenko, but Venus Williams continuing to take care of business.
We can then build the win-win-win situation we are all longing for.
In a shrewd compromise move, the IOC makes the watershed decision to award the 2024 and 2028 Olympics at the same time come September. All this and more we've got for you later on at 10:40. Do stay with Evan as he's got the news.
Thanks, Kendall. Very good morning to you once again. Now, tributes continue to pour in for the legendary jazz musician Ray Phiri, who passed away early this morning in a Nelspruit hospital in Mpumalanga. The 17-year-old Phiri was admitted to hospital a few days ago battling lung cancer. Phiri is one of the brand ambassadors for the Mpumalanga province. He was the lead member of the multi-award-winning band Stimela. Sipho Hotsticks Mabuza says he had hoped that Phiri would recover. Now, according to South African History Online, Phiri got his first break in 1962 when he danced for the legendary Dark City Sisters when they performed in the then Eastern Transvaal. He made enough money to fulfill his ambitions to travel to Johannesburg. He became a founding member of the 1970s soul music group, The Cannibals. When the Cannibals disbanded, he founded Stimela, Steam Train, with whom he produced gold and platinum winning albums like Fire, Passion and Ecstasy, Look, Listen and Decide, as well as the controversial People Don't Talk, So Let's Talk. Phiri was part of the 8-month-long Graceland tour, a global trek headed by American singer Paul Simon. On 27 April 2011, President Jacob Zuma conferred Phiri with the Order of Ikamanga in silver for his contribution to the South African music industry and the successful use of the arts of an instrument of social transformation. Now, for a little bit more on this, let's cross to our reporter Sibongile Mkani-Mpolweni, who is at the Mediclinic in Nelspruit, where Ray Phiri died earlier this morning.
Good morning, Eben. Yes, indeed, we are at the hospital where the legend succumbed to lung cancer early this morning. We were here last night with the leadership of the province. They came to visit him, and his daughter said that he had asked not to allow the members of the public to visit him, as he had asked for privacy. But the MEC Mahlangu for Arts, Sports and Culture visited him. She is one of the last persons to have seen Ray last night. MEC, good morning on this somber mood. You were one of the last people to see him yesterday night when we were here. How was he looking?
Thank you very much. Greetings to all viewers at home. Yes, Sibonga was the last to see him yesterday night. His condition was very, very bad, and we ended up praying for his survival. Unfortunately, we didn't make it.
MEC, I understand you worked very closely with him. Just tell us of the memories that you have of Ray.
Ray was not an artist to me. It was a brother, a friend, a mentor in some ways. But really, I like his spirit. Maybe next time I will be able to cherish his talent to other people.
The help that he helped, the contribution that he made within the department. He was chairperson of the Arts Council. Tell us about that and his visits to your home.
Thank you very much, Sisbongi. Ray was passionately in the artist industry. he wanted to groom and to empower our artists here in Mpumalanga. That's why we ended up allowing people to elect him as the chairperson of Arts Council to assist in empowering our people, especially in music industry.
Last year, you had the very first Mpumalanga cultural music festival, I would say one of the biggest. How did that go about? Which role did he play?
Ray assisted us in preparation for the festival, and he also performed very, very well in that festival. We will always miss him for the talent he has.
You earlier on, you spoke about when you got to his ward yesterday, and what did he say to you?
I greeted him and he said, "Yes, Sisi." I said, "You saw me?" He said, "Yes, I saw you. You are the MEC Mahlangu. I know you." And then I introduced the acting premier, who's MEC Mtsweni. After that, I can see him that no, he's not in a good condition, because when I'm trying to interact with him, he was no longer in good condition.
And to the people of Mpumalanga, yesterday when we spoke to you last night after you met him, after the prayer, you said that you wanted support. What do you want the people of Mpumalanga to honor and remember Ray?
I want the people of Mpumalanga to stand up from now onwards in preparation of his last funeral, or respect him, because we know that Ray is one of our sons, and his legacy was to empower and was to see Mpumalanga growing in the music industry.
Okay. MEC, lastly, as the leadership, what's going to happen from now on? You said something about the leadership going there. When is that?
I'm still engaging my leaders here in Mpumalanga. As we all know that the Mpumalanga province is the only united province. So tomorrow I'll be with other MECs, mayors, and all structures that are here in Mpumalanga to pay a visit in Ray's family.
Minister? You said something also about the minister lastly.
I was speaking to the minister not long. The delegation from his office is around here in Mpumalanga. I was still going to meet and see how best we can do to assist the family in preparation of the funeral for Ray.
Thank you. That was MEC Mahlangu in the province. She's one of the last few people who saw him last night when she visited him here yesterday. The message is clear that Mpumalanga people must stand up, embrace and prepare to send Ray for his send-off in a graceful, respectful and also honoring him with music. The MEC also urged people to buy Ray's music in his honor, and to know that he always worked hard for the people of Mpumalanga, and especially to groom the youth in the music industry. Eben.
Thanks, Mimi. Thank you for that update. Of course, we'll continue remembering the late, great Ray Phiri on this very channel today. We move on. The public protector, Busisiwe Mkhwebane, has opposed President Jacob Zuma's attempts to block the establishment of a judicial commission of inquiry into state capture. The president has gone to court arguing that remedial action proposed by the previous public protector, Thuli Madonsela, is unconstitutional. Mkhwebane disagreed with Zuma that remedial action should not be taken until he's had a chance to clear his name. She says the president had publicly expressed his support for the establishment of the commission. Her decision came a day after she admitted she had no right to ask for the Reserve Bank's constitutional mandate to be changed. Of course, we've been running a poll since this morning, and you guys have been voting feverishly on it. And we ask you directly, do you have confidence in the work of the new public protector? We put it to you. 379 of you have voted, with 76% saying, no, we don't have confidence in the work of the new public protector. That is an indictment. Of course, our theme today, we're dealing with, well, the occupation of derelict buildings here in the inner cities in South Africa. Johannesburg, only the latest one after 7 people lost their lives in a fire. Now, of course, in studio, I'm joined by the Southern Africa Director for Human Rights Watch, Deba Mavinga. Very good morning to you, Deba. Thanks for being with us.
Morning, and thanks for having me on your show. Thank you.
Deba, this has caused a lot of concern. You've heard a lot of the toings and froings, the mayor saying this is a problem of illegal immigrants. Firstly, how do you view this, the statement that this is an issue of illegal immigrants hijacking buildings or occupying buildings in our inner cities?
I think what needs to happen is to acknowledge that there is a problem of hijackings of buildings in Johannesburg mainly, and that there is need for that to be addressed. It should not be about deflecting focus or attention, so therefore I would urge the mayor for Johannesburg to look at the issue as it is. It's about illegality, it's about criminality, and there must be decisive action, but the mayor should not, for example, blame human rights lawyers, because everything must happen within the framework of the law. There is need for a comprehensive plan that must be put in place without saying who are the people who are receiving the money or hijacking the buildings. These are criminals, full stop, and there is need for the law to take its course and for the mayor and his team to engage with different stakeholders and work within the framework of the law.
Now, it's becoming clearer and clearer that the problem with these buildings are not foreign nationals. It seems to be either criminal overlords that are getting people to pay rent, vulnerable people, I have to say, to pay rent in these buildings and giving them no services, and this escalates continuously. How do we deal with this problem of these overlords charging rent from vulnerable people?
Precisely correct. It is about effective and efficient law enforcement. This is what needs to happen. And therefore the mayor and the law enforcement team should focus on that, to say the need is to reclaim these buildings, deal decisively with the criminals, but in all this, do it within a framework that is respectful of the rule of law, and working together with the private investors who need to assist, because it would be unfair for people to live freely without paying anything. It would be unfair on the city council because of the burden of services and these buildings that are not remitting or paying to the city council. But what is important is to work within the framework of the rule of law, deal with the criminal elements, and ensure that they are put behind bars. But the challenges also include corruption, bribery, and lack of an efficient and effective law enforcement mechanism in Johannesburg.
Are you happy with the alternative accommodation that's been made available for the victims of these evictions and of these the fires that we are seeing?
More could be done, but my concern is that really the mayor and others are deflecting attention and focusing more on talking about, so for example, foreign nationals, or that human rights lawyers are to blame, when in fact focus should be on saying how do we ensure that we deal with criminality, the people pay for the services that they need, and that all the hijacked buildings are back in the custody and care of the city council, so that people can get accommodation, those that need it, and pay for it. Taxpayers are paying for these services, and they must be used appropriately. But the challenge is to then deflect and pontificate and take political postures, as the mayor is doing. That is not helpful. What is needed is a comprehensive approach that is inclusive in terms of all stakeholders.
Why do you think this is being politicized then in this space, this kind of issue? Is it a scenario of party politics playing out in the city?
That's my view, that look, this is a highly contested terrain in terms of the city. You have the Democratic Alliance, you have the EFF, we have the ANC, and therefore I think the mayor has a tendency to politicize every little thing that comes his way. So we need to appeal to the mayor of Johannesburg to look at the issues, look for solutions, work with stakeholders, and not pontificate or politicize these very important matters, because taxpayers are paying and they expect a proper service, they expect a clean city, and criminals must be dealt with in accordance with the law. Human rights lawyers are not to blame. Civil society is not to blame. These are forces. If the mayor has got an issue that he can substantiate in terms of evidence, then he should do so following the proper procedures and not to whip up emotions in the public domain.
Now, of course, the Gauteng provincial government has endeavoured to... Sorry, can you help me? Thank you. Has endeavoured to establish a task team which will deal with the illegal occupation and hijacking of these buildings. Now, the MEC for Human Settlements, Mr. Paul Mashatile, he said that the priority of government is the citizens and their plight for accommodation.
We'll also work with Home Affairs to check people who are not documented, because you also have that problem. So you'll find that majority of these people are not South Africans. So it becomes difficult for us to help them permanently in terms of the products that we produce as human settlement, unlike RDP houses. Because if you are not a South African, the only way you can be helped if you have documents to be in discount, it means you must find rental accommodation somewhere.
Well, that's the view of the MEC for Human Settlements here in Gauteng. How do you respond to what the MEC just said?
I think he is highlighting a real challenge that is there. And the solution could include, working with the Home Affairs Department to regularize, the stay or the documentation of foreign nationals, so that they pay tax and they also have access to, paid for rentals, because there are different schemes for citizens. There are schemes for those that cannot afford the RDP scheme. So there is need to have a comprehensive plan that deals with the different categories and that says decisively, when you're dealing with a criminal case, then it's just a criminal case as is, and not necessarily focusing on the identities. But certainly there is a challenge in terms of how the city council deals with foreign nationals who are undocumented, and how it works with the Department of Home Affairs to ensure that there is a comprehensive plan that deals with that. So not doing anything is not an option.
So the mayor then went on and said, the solution here is eviction and refurbishment of these buildings, and then we restart the repatriation process. Yes?
Well, the framework, and I need to emphasize that, should be the laws of South Africa, the Constitution. So in terms of evictions, yes, the proper procedure would be that there is need to secure a High Court order that is relevant, and then proceed in accordance with the positions of the law. In terms of repatriation, again, that is something that needs to be looked at in consultation with the Home Affairs Department and the other stakeholders that are there in terms of what options are there. We have had dispensations like the Zimbabwe Special Permits Program that have been quite effective in terms of ensuring that undocumented foreign nationals are regularized and can pay tax to improve and contribute to the fiscus of South Africa.
Tewa, thanks very much for joining us today. The Southern Africa Director of the African Division of Human Rights Watch, Deva Mavinga, joining us in the studio to talk about our theme today, which of course is the occupation of buildings in the inner city, especially here in Johannesburg. We'll take a short little break. That's our question. How do we deal with what they call illegal immigrants occupying buildings in our cities? Tweet us. We'll put it up after the break.
I think winter is definitely one of those seasons where you can really show off your sartorial choices. You can start from a single layer of a shirt, actually starting with thermals, build it up with the shirts. You can have beautiful knits over the shirts, like we've done with Jay.
This film tells the story of a very, very significant political figure in the struggle for freedom in South Africa, who happened to be a woman. She was Nelson Mandela's wife.
The exhibition is an exploration into black femininity. Tabitha is a woman of color, and she is exploring the historical exploitation of the black female body.
Newtown Junction Mall hosted an epic contest in the cold where 3 top South African graffiti artists battled it out for the opportunity to become the Newtown Graffiti Face-Off Master.
For your weekly dose of entertainment news, tune into Trends every Saturday from 12 to 1.
Welcome back. Now, earlier this year, the Constitutional Court set aside the eviction of 184 residents of Kiribili, a block of flats in Berea, that's also in Johannesburg's inner city. The court held the view that evictions that led to homelessness are unlawful, even if they are agreed to by all of the residents who stand to be evicted. So the Socio-Economic Rights Institute of South Africa, that acted for the Kiribili residents, hailed the ruling as a momentous decision for millions of poor people across South Africa who live with insecure tenure and inadequate housing. Now, from the Socio-Economic Rights Institute of South Africa, we are joined by candidate attorney Lwazi Mtio. A very good morning to you, Lwazi. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
Just tell us a little bit more about the case of this Kiribili eviction, 184 residents, big victory for them in Berea here in Johannesburg.
Yeah, definitely it's a big victory for the people in the inner city who can't afford to pay for rental accommodation. It's a case that we took up some years back, whereby the property owner got a default judgment. They basically said the residents agreed by consent to be evicted from the property. But what they did in court was that the ATIN, when they got to court, they agreed with a few residents and got consent on behalf of all the residents. So what the court basically said was that you cannot consent on behalf of everyone to be illegally evicted, while they've not actually participated in the case themselves. But it does not set new precedent in terms of the fact that when people will be evicted and be homeless and be rendered homeless by an eviction, the city of Johannesburg bears a constitutional obligation to provide alternative accommodation.
This is a great victory for the poor, isn't it?
Certainly. It continues to create precedent. If I may talk a bit about the general scenario of what's happening in the inner city in terms of accommodation and evictions. What you have in the inner city is basically about more than 40% of residents who earn less than 2,200 rands a month. So what you have in terms of the rental market within the inner city is people who can afford accommodation that's available, that's offered by the private market. So those people fall within the gap. Those are the people who rent accommodation from people who've taken up buildings illegally, building hijackers and so forth. Those are the people who are not catered for by the city of Johannesburg. There's no social housing to cater for those people. So those are the people who fall victims into what you call bad buildings.
How do you view the city's pronouncements that these buildings are being occupied by mostly illegal immigrants and they need to be evicted and these buildings need to be reclaimed and refurbished?
I think it has become clear from your previous, guests that this is definitely not about illegal immigrants and people who've occupied buildings. By the way, it's not something new by the new administration. It has happened before, where you've had the city of Johannesburg going to the city to raid buildings to try and get rid of illegal immigrants. But the buildings, the fact is that they are still occupied. A great majority of people who occupy those buildings are people who are desperately in need of accommodation, who are attracted to the city of Johannesburg to seek better economic opportunities. So it's basically about broader socio-economic challenges that are facing South Africa, where people are jobless. If I may just talk a bit about, we've got, it's proven, it's research, where you talk about people who have been edged out of the city. Throughout our history, our people have always been displaced. Wherever they've had accommodations, it's been built in the periphery of the city. If you look at RDP houses where they're built far away from job opportunities that are within the inner city of Johannesburg. So with that need, people need to stay closer to job. It's a fact that the closer you stay to job, the more likely you are to actually get a job. So it's about spatial mismatch. So the demand that people come to the inner city has not been matched by the response from the city that is appropriate to meet that demand.
What's the response you want from the mayor's office and from the city with regards to this problem?
It's definitely low-cost social housing. As I've indicated, you've got almost half of the city's population that has disappeared. And the city of Johannesburg has the institutional capacity to actually provide for those people. No one is saying it's going to happen overnight. But what you have, for example, if you talk about Cape York, let's talk about Cape York specifically. What you have with Cape York is a building that was privately owned by the Bank of Mozambique. At some point in 2013, the city of Johannesburg was ordered by the court to actually refurbish that building for the benefit of people who stayed there. They did not do that. It did not happen. They could have done that and negotiated with those people and see how they can actually refurbish that building for the benefit of all people. We have people who come to us on a daily basis to come and beg us. They want to be formalized and be under the city of Johannesburg and pay rent and be tenants, but they are turned away on a daily basis. So it's the response that has been coming from the city that does not meet the demand that's there. Even from a basic point of view, the city itself, we've got people who approach us and say, we want our services back, water and electricity. Can you come and negotiate with the city of Johannesburg for us? We go to the city of Johannesburg, and the city of Johannesburg says, bring actually the owner of the building. We tell the city, actually you own the building. So even from a basic point of view, they don't understand, even know the buildings that they own. Instead, what they've done over the years is to take those buildings and give them to property owners and attach them, because they owe services, they've been abandoned, and attach them, sell them to private property owners. And the private property owners, what do? They evict people. So what happens there? It triggers a constitutional obligation for the city to provide. So it's a self-defeating exercise that has been happening over time.
Is there the political will to solve this problem, or has it just become posturing and party political at the moment?
From a political point of view, I think it's become political posturing, clearly from that point of view. And there has been no will, or at least willingness over the years to even do that. And it's not something new that we see with the new administration, even though the rhetoric has become up. But even during the previous administration, there was no clear will to actually deal with the situation. They have been dealing with at a piecemeal point of view, whereby there's an eviction in one building, they provide temporary alternative accommodation in that one building. But the problem is bigger than just one building.
So there's no, or you'll say there's no overall plan.
There's no.
Let's go back to Kiribili.
Yes.
And the 184 residents there. Where are they now, and what alternatives are being looked at for them?
Okay, what is happening is that in Kiribili it was ordered, like I said, the court said, the High Court of Johannesburg said, you can be evicted, you've agreed to be evicted because you had these 4 representatives who came to court and agreed on your behalf. But what we did was to appeal that decision, was to do a rescission, to try and cancel that decision, but the court disagreed with us. So we went all the way to the Constitutional Court for the court to say, this court order is set aside. So what the owner can actually do now is to start afresh and do a new eviction application. With that new eviction application, obviously we'll bring the personal circumstances of the people who can afford to pay rent. And the reality is that you can't wish away this problem. You can't wish away the poor within the inner city. Even if you go back specifically to Cape York was occupied by a number of people who've been evicted in other buildings. So what happens is that you have people evicted unlawfully, even lawful in some buildings. They reoccupy other buildings. You just have the same cycle.
We are stuck in a cycle and we need a plan. That's what Lwazi Ntio is telling us. We need a bigger plan, and that's a message that's going right to the top here in the city of Johannesburg. Am I right?
Yeah.
Thank you very much for joining us today. Candidate attorney Lwazi Ntio. He's with the Socio-Economic Rights Institute of South Africa. Of course, we're talking about, well, the issue of the illegal occupation of buildings in our inner cities, they call it building hijackings. Don't forget to tweet us on our question of the day. This has been put in front of the door of what they call illegal immigrants. That's our question of the day. Give us a tweet there. We're going to take a short little break. When we come back, hopefully, Cyril Ramaphosa will be talking at the SACP Congress in Boksburg. Come and see.
Kilimanjaro, majestic and mysterious. 27 climbers. 5,895 meters. 5 days. Trekking in honor of Madiba and for underprivileged schoolgirls. In just 5 years, millions of sanitary towels have been distributed countrywide. The target to reach 2 million needy girl children by 2020.
It's time that as men, we must actually pick one sanitary pack.
We can touch one girl through this initiative.
SABC News will again be documenting the arduous expedition. The climbers have one goal in mind. To pledge support for a month's supply of sanitary pads, SMS Gillian or Tabo M to 42513. The South African team hopes to summit Uhuru, Africa's highest peak, on Madiba's birthday, July 18th.
cloud systems and robots have taken over a lot of what used to be done manually.
Our accounting system is actually based on the cloud.
Google nowadays can tell you where you parked your car.
And Africa's entrepreneurs are using technology to create.
With Pocket Masipala, you can basically do all the services that you would do at the municipality physically by going there, but you can now do them on a mobile app.
Join me, Spumelele Zondi, on Sundays at 9 p.m. on SABC News.
Good morning, welcome back. My name is Kendall Makhamate, and we've got the sports for you. We're still waiting for Cyril Ramaphosa, the Deputy President of the country, to speak at the SACP conference. But while we're waiting for him to take to the podium, here's a little bit of sports for you. Top seed Andy Murray of Britain will today try to copy his female compatriot, 6th seed Johanna Conte's achievement of reaching the Wimbledon semi-finals in London. Murray is first up on centre court in his quarter-final clash against big serving American Sam Kerry. Third-seeded Swiss Roger Federer will play 7th seed Milos Raonic of Canada, while 2nd seed Novak Djokovic of Serbia takes on Czech 11th seed Thomas Berdych. 7th seed Marin Cilic of Croatia will meet Rafael Nadal's conqueror Gilles Miller of Luxembourg on court 1.
As a local player, Murray has dominated the Wimbledon headlines for years. In 2017, however, he has to share the spotlight with Conte. The 6th seed is so far impressed with her skills, determination and approach to her matches. With her 3-set victory over 2nd-seeded Romanian Simona Halep, she became the first British woman semi-finalist in 39 years.
It's over. British tennis history is made.
I guess to be in the semi-finals of my home slam, and to do that in front of a full centre court, I mean, it's pretty special, and I think the level of tennis that both of us played today, it was just a tremendous match.
Conte will now face 5-time champion Venus Williams, the only player amongst the last 4 to have won the prestigious title. 37-year-old Williams made good use of her massive experience to beat young French Open champion 13th seed Jelena Ostapenko. The American 10th seed recorded a 6-3, 7-5 quarterfinal win.
I never played her. I've watched her a lot, so I really didn't know what to expect. And then the grass, of course, changes the game. So it was a lot of just factors. And I was really happy to come out on top.
Earlier, Garbine Muguruza advanced to her 2nd semi-final at the All England Club. The 14th-seeded Spaniard beat Russian 7th seed Svetlana Kuznetsova in straight sets.
I'm very happy and very pleased also with this match because obviously Kuznetsova is a very tough opponent. We all know she has been and is a great player. And I managed to play a good level during all the match, and I earned the victory.
Slovakia's Magdalena Rybarikova recorded a comfortable straight sets victory over American Coco Vandeweghe. The world number 87 has never advanced past the first round in London, except in 2015, when she reached round 3. She will now face Muguruza for a place in the final as her fairy tale run continues. Liesel Zankel, SABC News.
Now, Cricket South Africa has banned former Proteas and Haifa Lions player Lonwabo Tsotsobe for several breaches of its anti-corruption code for personnel. In a statement sent out last night, Tsotsobe, who's admitted contraventions of the code, has been banned for 8 years.
The banning of Tsotsobe follows a lengthy and detailed investigation and the previous imposition by Cricket South Africa in January 2016 of a 20-year ban on former Proteas player Gulam Bodi. 5 other players have since admitted contraventions of the code and have been banned for periods ranging between 2 to 12 years. Tsotsobe has admitted 1 charge of contravening to fix a match, this in the 2015 Rand Slam tournament, 2 charges of failing to disclose to the CSA anti-corruption officer the full details of an approach to engage in corrupt conduct, 2 charges of failing to disclose full details of matters evidence a breach of code by another participant. He was also found guilty of 3 charges of failing or refusing to cooperate with an investigation, and 2 charges of obstructing or delaying the investigation by destroying evidence and concealing information that was relevant to an investigation. The ban in terms of CSA's anti-corruption code prevents Tsotsobe from participating in or being involved in any capacity in any international or domestic match or any kind of function, an event or activity that is authorized, organized, sanctioned, recognized or supported in any way by Cricket South Africa, the International Cricket Council, a National Cricket Federation or any member of a National Cricket Federation. The ban will run for 8 years beginning the 24th of April 2017, which is the date that Tsotsobe was provisionally suspended from participating in all cricketing activities following the notice of charge issued to him by Cricket South Africa.
Now, you have been commenting on that very same story all morning. We'll be definitely bringing those tweets to you at the top of the hour so that we can just wrap it all up about Lopsi. Lonwabo Tsotsobe. In the meantime, I had a chat with Dumisa Makalima, the head coach of University of Johannesburg cricket yesterday. Had a chat with him about the Proteas and how they're going out in England. Struggling a lot in their very first test at Lords and losing by a whopping 211 runs. They've got Nottingham Trent Bridge coming up shortly. This is what we spoke about yesterday about the Proteas and how to go going forward.
Playing, it looks like it. They've got a couple of problems, a couple of questions that they really need to answer very quickly. And obviously, it doesn't make it easier. I mean, the fact that the top player in the world is not with them on tour.
We saw this coming from a long way off. When talking specifically about AB de Villiers and his presence or non-presence in the test side and with the rest of the team, both ODI and T20 sides, he came back, and right now it seems like we're dealing with those chickens coming home to roost, the kind of discord that has been sown around whether he's going to be playing tests or not. Is it fair to put it all squarely on AB's doorstep?
Well, it's not all fair to put it all on him, but the big part of it, it has to go on him. I mean, he is the balance of that team. Any team with AB de Villiers is a hard team to bowl out. You know, the scorecard, the total does seem to change a little bit. I mean, a couple of years back, you saw the team that beat England right at Lords. They had a totally different batting lineup. It was full of experience. It was full of balance, you know. But now it's just a bit, it's just a bit rattled at the moment. And his absence surely is the one that's missed.
Absences that was also felt was Captain Faf du Plessis on paternity leave. We also had the coach Russell Domingo not around for the first couple of days because he had a family emergency to deal with as well. He's also just thrown his hat into the ring to try and extend or get a new contract with the Proteas. They've got new batsmen up the order, middle of the order. All those kind of things that they surely cannot be the best way to be going into a test series against England in England.
Not ideal, isn't it? But such as Test cricket, those are the things that, unfortunately, such a high-class team need to deal with and put it out their heads. It's very unfortunate that we missed out on Faf. You know, he is a quality captain, probably one of the best in the world, and he does add, good leadership amongst his team, and in terms of his batting as well, he has a great balance. He's a fighter till the end. So, but the small things like that surely cannot be the excuses, because we saw this coming. It was not as if this happened overnight. Yes. We saw this coming, whether AB is there or not, whether Faf, happened not to be there at that time. But such as Test cricket, that's what happens when you're playing international sports. You gotta just deal with the pressures on that day.
Let's talk a little bit about the differences that Faf will bring into the side, the quick fixes that you think he can put into that side.
I think the calmness, one thing he's going to bring in. I think the fact that he's going to tell his team not to panic. Yes, there's a lot that's going on behind closed doors. The world has also been watching as to how SA cricket is progressing. So there's a lot of calmness he's going to bring in. There's still a lot to play for in this test series. Also, pride is at stake. So him as a leader and obviously a top-class batsman brings in a lot of difference into that team setup. So there's still a lot of cricket to be played. So, and we look forward to the test in Trent Bridge.
What difference do you make that having Russell Domingo back in will make?
Definitely to add a little bit of difference as well in terms of leadership. I'm sure he's got a lot that he's seen is picked up while he was not there. So there's a lot that a coach can pick up from the sidelines that he can relay to his team. As we saw, the way that South Africa played was not clinical as we've mentioned, they dropped a couple of catches. There were a couple of ill disciplines that were there and there. So besides the fact that there was the likes of AB were not there, we were not clinical in the field. We didn't give ourselves the best chance to win the test match. So I think that the likes of AB, the likes of Russell Domingo, the leadership will point out those few small points so that they are corrected by the time the second test starts.
Let's talk a little bit about the fact that they're going to be without Kagiso Rabada for a little bit of ill discipline. Something that some people say was a little harsh on ICC to give him that demerit point which knocked him over and make sure that he misses the next test. But it's cumulative, it's been said. It goes back to the incident with Dikwela when Sri Lanka were playing that ODI against Sri Lanka. What do you make of the fact that he's not going to be around? And for something some people say, but it's been done all along.
Yes, it's been the talk. I mean, besides South Africa losing the test match, it's been the talk. I mean, people have got their opinions. I mean, ICC have set the standards. Where do you draw the line? You know, how aggressive is the game going to be moving on forward? You know, are we going to be that pedantic about how the aggression of these two teams, you know, are going to be taking it out there? It does add a little bit of uncertainty in terms of how the game will carry on. But surely he's going to be missed. I mean, Kagiso is a world-class bowler. It does add a little bit of inconsistency as well in our team selection moving on to Trent Bridge. So we've got a couple of issues that we need to deal with before the second test. But nonetheless, out of all those issues, we need to win a test match in England. Ultimately, we need to win this test series, and that's going to be very hard. FAF
has come out and considered that, you know what, JP Dumini's place is up for grabs in the test side. What do you think it's going to look like? Do you think it's fair to single out JP Dumini, not talk about Hashim Amla? Or do you think JP Dumini is the one that's actually been the main weak link in the side?
I think it has to be said. I mean, he has struggled in this type of form, in this form of the game for a number of years now. You know, he's been found out on that short ball, which we saw in that second innings. I mean, as aggressive as he was found out. But his spot is up for grabs. I'll be very surprised if we see JP Dumini put on the South African jersey again, especially in the white colour. You know, so he's not far off Faf du Plessis. He knows that he's coming under pressure, he's coming under some scrutiny, and the pressure of the runs for himself, you know, has been the issue. Look at his record. His record actually tells a story. You know, he's been around now. He's supposed to be a player who's supposed to guide South Africa in times of trouble, but he just seems to falter, you know, at the crucial stages. So definitely his place is up for grabs, and I think it's time for also South African cricket to move in the right direction in terms of planning for the future. You know, Hashim Amla is a kind of a different story. I think look at the record. I mean, you can rely on Hashim Amla actually getting the team out of trouble at certain stages. You know, his form dips there and there, but I don't think he's the one that you can actually leave out the team at this moment. He's not in the worst form as JP.
Surely the story that class is permanent is a bit tired now, especially in Hashim Amla's case. It's been a while since he pulled the team out of a spot of bother.
No, absolutely. But I also think the tour that we're in right now in England is going to be very difficult for selectors to make rash changes, 2 or 3 changes at once, you know, especially when you're going to pull out a player like Hashim Amla, who's played a number of test matches in a tour like England. I think he's probably going to finish off this tour and probably will reassess himself on his future in terms of the national team. But I think he's a handy player to still have for South Africa at the moment.
Quick question for you. So Dumini probably out, Faf pulls into his place. Any other changes you'd make to the side going to Nottingham?
I think they have to look at Quinton de Kock coming up that order. He's a serious player. He always comes in and scores runs at number 7, runs out of partners. Surely up the order he can make a difference at number 5, I think. But I think in terms of you know, just rest changes, I think they're not going to make much. Obviously, Kagiso Rabada is out, so they'll probably have to look at like Chris Morris coming in, somebody who's going to add with the bat as well, so that we can strengthen the balance of the team.
Now, last one but not least, very last one. You win the toss in Nottingham. What do?
We definitely have to have a bet. You know, I'm the believer that once you've got an opportunity to put runs on board, you can put runs on board. As England did, you need 1 or 2 players to put up good scores, get over 400, then you've got another team under pressure.
Fantastic. Dumisa Makalima, thank you very much once again for coming through. Very valuable insights and input that you're giving us. Dumisa Makalima, the head coach for University of Johannesburg Cricket, speaking to us a little bit about what happened and what we can expect going to the next test for the Proteas against England. All this and more we'll be looking at over the weekend. But before we do any of that, Phil Hawkins is standing by to give you the weather.
Yeah, thank you very much. Well, let's take a look at that weather. We're going to start off by taking a look at what's happening in southern Africa, because here we've been seeing dry conditions and very, very clear conditions throughout the western parts for a long, long time now. For today, we do start to see a low pressure system just sneaking down along the western coastlines there of southern Africa. What this is going to do, it's going to interact with high pressure systems, which you can see are already dominant off South Africa's southern coastline there. And what it's going to do as we move into tomorrow is that it's going to break away and form its own low pressure system towards South Africa's southeastern coastline. That interaction in turn tomorrow will bring in a bit of cloud cover in towards that southern coastline of South Africa. And the interaction between low and high pressure systems will indeed result in that cloud cover. The following day we can expect a bit of rainfall. But just to clarify, this is not a cold front coming in. That low pressure system originated from the west. We saw that movement just a little bit earlier there. The rest of Africa for tomorrow, expecting clear conditions all the way through towards the northern parts of Tanzania. Not much rainfall really forecast at all for the southern hemisphere of Africa here. But let's take a look at what's happening in terms of your temperatures. We're already starting to see temperatures coming back in Cape Town to about 17 degrees Celsius. Sunny skies are forecast here as well, so it should feel just a little bit warmer than that. We do expect the possibility of some cloud cover to start developing along the eastern coastline there. And by the time it reaches Durban, we're expecting, again, the possibility of some very, very light precipitation in the area. Now, as we move further north, Pretoria peaks at 25 degrees. Temperatures are going to continue to rise as we move north again. Those high pressure systems in the area resulting in clear conditions all the way throughout. You can see Maun 28, Vic Falls 27, Harare at a fairly mild 22-degree maximum for today. But again, sunshine means that it's going to feel nice and warm there. And Windhoek, the capital of Namibia, peaks at about the mid-20s. Now, moving on into the island regions, we do continue to see sunny skies around Moroni, so great news there, 28 degrees Celsius, and the rest of the island regions following suit with warm conditions there in the Port Louis area, 28 as well, but expecting a little bit of precipitation. Now, that again is a low pressure system moving over the area, just bringing some passing storms through. Now, cloud cover and rainfall is forecast around Juba, around Bangui and surrounding areas, but as we saw in our maps, it's not moving very far south at all. You can see that these temperatures are warm, but we're not seeing that cloud cover and not seeing that rainfall in the southern parts. The rainfall is going to extend further north for today. You can see it coming all the way up into northern Chad, southern Niger, and even into parts of Algeria there. Mali expecting quite a lot of rainfall for today. Ethiopia, again, the highlands, always expecting that rainfall, and today is no different. For tomorrow, it's going to continue, and then it's going to start to spread into the southern parts of Sudan and the northern parts of South Sudan. Of course, that rainfall, once again, making it all the way up towards Morocco, not quite reaching it, but a stronger band of rainfall moving there. That's where we're going to leave your weather for now. Stay tuned with SABC News.
And poverty did not deter Mpumi's success.
Being an orphan or coming from poverty or having seen what HIV and AIDS does to a person that you love takes nothing away from you. It means that you are part of a selective few who have had to face a very, very marginalized struggle.
Abuse is a lonely journey that needs compassion.
I came across as a very confident, ambitious person, but behind that mask was somebody who had serious anxiety problems, a person who had knots in their stomach continuously, a person who could be in company and would feel very lonely.
Being away from his birth country did not stop his hunger to succeed.
Boxing was the way out. Turning professional would give me an income. That was the solution to the problems I've had for so many years.
For more inspiring stories, join Bupalong every Friday at 17:30.
Kilimanjaro, majestic and mysterious. 27 climbers. 5,895 meters, 5 days, trekking in honor of Madiba and for underprivileged schoolgirls. In just 5 years, millions of sanitary towels have been distributed countrywide. The target, to reach 2 million needy girl children by 2020.
It's time that as men, we must actually pick one sanitary pack.
We can touch one girl through this initiative.
SABC News will again be documenting the arduous expedition. The climbers have one goal in mind. To pledge support for a month's supply of sanitary pads, SMS Gillian or Tabo M to 42513. The South African team hopes to summit Uhuru, Africa's highest peak, on Madiba's birthday, July 18th.
This is Tanya Mukwamu, co-founder of a mobile application called MaxiCash. The app is aimed at helping African expatriates send money home.
When one thinks of sending money home, it could be peer-to-peer cash transfers, or it could be buying airtime or paying for school fees or hospital bills. So the list really expands. So it was just making that process a lot easier for African expats, bearing in mind that they have such high fees, going through your traditional agencies and so forth. So we just thought that, that money could be routed to better use.
Being an expat from the Democratic Republic of the Congo, Tanya found it rather challenging to send money from South Africa to her home country. This is when the MaxiCash app was born.
It was really personal frustration to begin with, like I think a lot of solutions. I'm an expat myself. I'm originally from the DRC, so I've had that experience of sending money to my parents or anyone I support back home, and having to leave work and take time off, and there's so much paperwork, and often you don't have the right papers. I've been robbed, believe it or not, with all the with cash on me. So it was really just my own experience, and through studies, obviously, I noticed that a lot of African experts and others experience the same issues. So it took the time to study and have the proper technology and make sure the market was ready for our solution.
Because of South Africa's functional banking infrastructure, mobile money services such as Kenya's M-Pesa rarely survive. What makes MaxiCash different from these?
The app is available for download on Google Play and your Apple Store. And one downloads it from anywhere, and we do have some selective markets where you can cash out your funds. So right now, from a cash out point of view, you can cash out in South Africa as well as the DRC, and soon entering into the Eastern African market. We integrate with the FNB e-wallet, so the recipient will receive the money like they would, you receive your SMS, your e-wallet payment is there, and you go to any FNB ATM and cash it out.
Tanya comes from a logistics and transportation industry and fell into the tech world, where she learned a lot, and with the help of other techies, she eventually built an app that will make life easier for others.
We're shooting a campaign. We're telling genuine stories from real people that have been affected by the SABC. It's also interesting to get the backstory in terms of their dreams to be on screen and eventually getting the pleasure to do that. And understanding that they're communicating on a platform that speaks to millions of people. It speaks to how the SABC can fulfill its mandate.
The SABC represents the opportunity for so many young South Africans, for old South Africans, to be able to look at the world that they may not experience any other way.
People should continue to pay their TV license because it allows the SABC to bring quality programming.
The TV license is really part of the lifeblood of the channel and the corporation.
When you're listening to your favorite jams, you're listening to your favorite radio DJ, you must know that you made it possible by paying your TV license.
It's such a holistic process that goes into TV licenses. It's not only one part where we say South Africans have to pay for TV licenses. You pay a TV license because you get so much value out of it, and that's the content that you get every single day on the SABC platforms.
I have been in the film industry now for 51 years. I am quite satisfied with the evolution of television now that you have got a lot of actors and you have got a lot of crew members, which will also play part of paying our licenses, because I think it's proper.
Jumbo Africa. This is the final hour here in the newsroom. I'm Elvis Preslin.
And I'm Kendall Mahamad.
I'll be with you until 12 o'clock today. Now, the focus, of course, today is on the hijacked buildings here in the CBD of Johannesburg, Kendall, as well as elsewhere in the country. And Herman Mashaba is not a very happy mayor.
No, he's not. It's a contentious issue. There's had a lot of battle lines drawn, and it's very interesting where the conversation is right now. And that's exactly why we're asking you, how is it that we deal with the illegal immigrants that occupy the buildings in our cities?
Also, we heard earlier, of course, it's not just illegal immigrants, it's also South Africans seeing in those buildings that they're occupying. And of course, there needs to be a solution for these issues. But that's why we're asking you. Let's take a look at what you are tweeting us.
First up, we've got one from Kifile. Kifile says, organize a multidisciplinary team, social workers, human rights lawyers, etc., to explore the reasons why people come and work together as African countries.
Now, that's exactly what the councillor earlier said. There needs to be a multidisciplinary team that look at all these issues. Barry Martin says, firstly, these illegal immigrants are already illegal in South Africa, and why do they occupy buildings here? Simply deport them. That's Barry Martin's solution.
Begani Memele says, without securing our borders, I don't see South Africa winning this war with regards to the illegal immigrants.
Well, the city did say that they're welcome to come, but they must be documented, all immigrants, of course, those occupying the buildings. But the councillor indicated it is a systemic problem within the inner city. But we're also conducting a poll on the public protector, Buzisiwe Mkhubane, who has opposed President Jacob Zuma's attempts to block the establishment of a judicial commission of inquiry.
And that's exactly why we get to this particular poll. We want to find out from you, do you have confidence in the work of the new public protector?
Well, thus far, I must tell you, PP, 410 votes in. People of South Africa and around this continent of Africa not very confident in the work that you're doing. 77% are saying no.
23% say yes, they do have confidence in the PP. Very interesting that. Let's see what you're backing this up with. What are you tweeting on this particular poll question?
This one from Bamanye says, I do. It wouldn't be fair for us to compare her with her predecessor. I trust that she will deliver wowing results in no time. Well, so says Bamanye.
One of the 23%. Jamilavander Scape says, being younger, I suppose the new public protector will be firm and more able to protect the citizens of South Africa.
What has age got to do with it? That's what Tina Turner will ask you. But this one here from Nazim says, I never trusted her before. How am I going to have confidence in her now?
One hiding next to nothing, the new public protector.
Flying a tree at the public protector. But that's some of your comments. Please keep them coming. We'll read them as we continue. But we also have a sporting question, and this is all about corruption and brown envelopes in the game of cricket. It's no longer a gentleman's game, they say.
Yeah, it never really was it? Lonwabo Tsotsobe has been banned by the CSA for 8 years. This is for a corruption in the Ram Slam T20. It's been running for some 20 months odd. We want to find out from you, what do you think about Lopsy's 8-year ban?
Well, there he is, Lopsy in hot water. Let's take a look at what you're telling us. Is there any tweets on Lopsy? No?
I would expect there's a lot of traction on this particular question. From what I heard a little earlier on, a lot of people had lots to say about Lonwabo Tsotsobe being banned for 8 years. For example, Tamsang Jalibani says Lonwabo has earned the hard way. He was earning a good salary, plain and simple. He's joining a long list of corrupt elements.
This one coming in from Maya Baby says his career is over. As the saying goes, show me your friends and I'll tell you who you are.
Dipansu comes in with, he hopes he'll learn something out of this, to associate with the right crowd. A really sad story indeed.
Sad indeed, because he could have been a hope for youngsters out there to learn from. He was a fairly great cricketer.
Pretty good, bubbling under, never quite made it to be best in the world, but you know what, there he goes.
33 years old and career's over. Let's get down to business. Take a look at your headlines. Yes, it's a sad day for South Africa and the world. Legendary jazz musician Ray Phiri has passed away in a Nelspruit Mbombela hospital in Mpumalanga. Will be sorely missed. The public protector, Busisiwe Mkhwebane, has opposed the President Jacob Zuma's attempts to block the establishment of a judicial commission of inquiry into state capture. And we are waiting with bated breath. The Deputy President Cyril Ramaphosa addresses the SACP National Congress in Boksburg today. You don't want to touch that dial. You have to stay tuned. We're going to cross there live as soon as we get that feed from the Deputy President. But before we get there, let's find out from Kendo or Makamate what's happening on the sports front.
Elvis, thank you very much. Good morning to you. This is what we've got planned for you for the Sports Bulletin today.
Oh, goodness! Where's that gone?
Lonwabo Tsotsobe, once ranked the #1 ODI bowler in the world, has been banned for corruption in the Ram Slam T20.
The ageless Venus Williams, at the age of 37, for another Wimbledon's semi-final.
Five-time champion Venus Williams sets another milestone as she wins her 100th singles match at Wimbledon to waltz into the semi-finals.
Well, a month on from Paris, there will be no London fairy tale for Yelena Ostapenko. But Venus Williams continuing to take care of business.
We can then build the win-win-win situation we are all longing for.
In a shrewd compromise move, the IOC makes the watershed decision to award the 2024 and 2028 Olympics at the same time, come September. All this in more detail we've got for you around about 11:35 or so. For now, it's back to Elvis, who's got the news.
If you're in the music industry and, of course, a fan, then you must be very sad today because tributes are starting to pour in for the legendary jazz musician Ray Phiri, who passed away early this morning in a Nelspruit hospital in Mpumalanga. The 70-year-old Phiri was admitted to hospital a few days ago battling lung cancer. Phiri is one of the brand ambassadors for the Mpumalanga province. He was the lead member of the multi-award-winning band Stimela. Sipho Hotsticks Mabuse says he had helped or hoped that Phiri would recover. According to SA History Online, Phiri got his first break in 1962 when he danced for the legendary Dark City Sisters when they performed in the Eastern Transvaal. He made enough money to fulfill his ambition to travel here to Johannesburg and became a founding member of the 1970s soul music group The Cannibals. When the Cannibals disbanded, he founded Stimela, Steam Train, with whom he produced gold and platinum winning albums like Fire, Passion and Ecstasy, Look, Listen and Decide, as well as the controversial People Don't Talk, So Let's Talk. Phiri was part of the 8-month-long Graceland tour, a global trek headed by the American singer Paul Simon. Remember that one? On 27 April 2011, President Jacob Zuma conferred Phiri with the Order of Ikamanga in silver for his contribution to the South African music industry and the successful use of the arts as an instrument of social transformation.
Ray was not an artist to me. It was a brother, a friend, a mentor in some ways. But really, I like his spirit. Maybe next time I will be able to cherish his talent to other people.
The help that he helped, the contribution that he made within the department. He was chairperson of the Arts Council. Tell us about that and his visits to your home.
Thank you very much, Sisbongi. Ray was passionately in the artist industry. He wanted to groom and to empower our artists here in Mpumalanga. That's why we ended up allowing people to elect him as the chairperson of Arts Council to assist in empowering our people, especially in music industry.
Last year, you had the very first Mpumalanga cultural music festival, I would say one of the biggest. How did that go about? Which role did he play?
Ray assisted us in preparation for the festival, and he also performed very, very well in that festival we will always miss him for the talent he has.
You earlier on you spoke about when you got to his ward yesterday, and what did he say to you?
I greeted him and he said, "Yes, Sisi." I said, "You saw me?" He said, "Yes, I saw you. You are the MEC Mahlangu. I know you." And then I introduced the acting premier, who's MEC Mtsweni. After that, I can see him that no, he's not in a good condition, because when I'm trying to interact with him, he was no longer in good condition.
And to the people of Mpumalanga, yesterday when we spoke to you last night after you met him, after the prayer, you said that you wanted support. What do you want the people of Mpumalanga to honor and remember Bra Ray?
I want the people of Mpumalanga to stand up from now onwards in preparation of his last funeral, or respect him, because we know that Bra Ray is one of our sons, and his legacy was to empower and was to see Mpumalanga growing in the music industry.
Okay, MEC, lastly, as the leadership, what's going to happen from now on? You said something about the leadership going there. When is that?
I'm still engaging my leaders here in Mpumalanga. As we all know that the Mpumalanga province is the only united province. So tomorrow I'll be with other MECs, mayors, and all structures that are here in Mpumalanga to pay a visit in Ray's family.
Minister? You said something also about the minister lastly.
I was speaking to the minister not long. The delegation from his office is around here in Mpumalanga. We're still going to meet and see how best we can do to assist the family in preparation of the funeral for Bra Ray.
Yes, he'll be sorely missed. Swagala. Well, he has been called. That's Ray Phiri. Let's move on now. The public protector, Busisiwe Mkhwebane, has opposed President Jacob Zuma's attempts to block the establishment of a judicial commission of inquiry into state capture. The president has gone to court, arguing that remedial action proposed by the previous public protector, Thuli Madonsela, is unconstitutional. Mkhwebane disagreed with Zuma that the remedial action should not be taken until he had a chance to clear his name. She says the president had publicly expressed his support for the establishment of the commission. Her decision come a day after she admitted she had no right to ask for the Reserve Bank's constitutional mandate to be changed. And that is, of course, why we're asking you this question on our poll today. We want to know from you, do you have confidence in the public protector? Let's take a look if that poll is up there, and what does the number suggest at this point in time? Is the poll ready? There we go. There's the poll, and I can't really, there we go, 410 votes in. So far we got 410, and 77% of you are saying you don't. You don't have confidence in the work of the public protector. 23% of people in South Africa and around the continent are saying yes, they do. Now, Mwabo is an educational technology company focused on Africa. They offer a range of educational products and services especially created for African markets, with a mandate to improve the quality of education in rural African schools. They have core services, which we'll be told about by the CEO of Mwabo, Justin Riley. A very good morning to you and welcome. Good morning. First and foremost, tell me more about Mwabo. What does it mean, and why Africa?
So we were founded by a gentleman called Mark Bennett some years ago. He was a chap who had built a business in Zambia, and he had struggled to employ the kinds of people that he wanted to employ with the right skill set. And he felt that the education system wasn't enabling them to grow and develop and become problem solvers and inquiry-based learners within their market. So he set about investing into developing a product that was digital, that was cost-effective, that could go into primary schools. So you could start developing the learners in the primary region so that they could develop to become better in high school and so on and so forth. He sadly passed away, and before he passed away, he had asked me to come in and take over to look at how we can take the great business we had in Zambia and bring it to a wider audience across sub-Saharan Africa.
So talk to me about the services and what does it mean for ordinary students and African pupils?
So we have a range of services, but we are focused on developing technology that works in the classroom in the most rural and poorest environments. So you're talking schools that don't necessarily have power, don't necessarily have connectivity. This weekend just gone by, for example, I was in a village just outside Siyavonga, where it is the most rural place you can imagine. Very beautiful, great people, great personalities, great culture, but they don't have access to the sort of things that we would take for granted in Johannesburg and other places. So we needed to develop a system that was transferable, that was aligned to the curriculum, and was easy for the pupils to use. But more than that, we recognised that teachers need help in using the technology. And we learned very quickly that we must invest into the teacher alongside the technology. It's not just about putting some published digital material in the hands of learners. It's very much about enabling the teachers to get the best out of the learners using those materials.
For those that haven't seen the concept that you're talking about, paint us a picture. What does it do? What does it mean? What does it look like?
So there are a number of different ways this can come about. So in our most basic format, you have a teacher tablet that has curriculum-aligned content in it with lesson plans, etc. And attached to that would be a projector that shines onto the wall, and the students can follow the material through. In there, we put on teacher tips, differentiated lessons, so that if you look at your class and you realise that not everyone's at the same level, you can use the activities in the right way for the right children. We then, alongside that, put in a comprehensive training programme for the teachers to help them to come to terms with the technology, get through the disruption, and really progress as teachers. In a more comprehensive setting, we also put the technology into the hands of the learners themselves, where in Zambia, for example, we have tablets being shared, one between two, in a rotational model, so we get the best out of the most cost-effective model. And it allows the students to progress and work through the materials as well at their own pace.
Now, you're talking about rural areas, and this, of course, the equipment that you're referring to, a projector with a laptop or a tablet for that matter, needs power.
Absolutely. So we've been working with a number of partners on solar solutions and batteries that swap in and swap out. So our current proof of concept model would be to have a trolley that has the projector on it and a battery that's inside that to power them. You then take the battery out when that runs down and swap it to one that's been charged out in a solar environment.
Now, in South Africa, it started off in Zambia. You're piloting it in KwaZulu-Natal, is it?
Yeah, absolutely.
And how's it going?
It's going very, very well, actually. The motivation we've seen within the teachers is very, very high. We've already seen some anecdotal evidence that we're impacting on the learning as well, and standards are being raised. I've got stories of students who have sat in the education system and never speak, suddenly starting to come out of their shells and engage with the teachers. Others where we've had students who have been petrified, or learners have been petrified about what's going on, because the learning is quite intimidating if you don't engage with it, really coming out and engaging with what's going on. So early signs, but it's looking very, very positive.
Can this be duplicated throughout the country?
Absolutely. So one of the things that we have at our core, and one of the things that I'm insisting on, is that what we design needs to be sustainable, has to be scalable, and needs to be transferable. So not every situation is the same. Contexts differ. But the core needs to be able to be picked up and dropped across. So we create, for example, a community of the teachers. So the teachers can work with one another virtually to get that support from one another. So if we're introducing something like questioning and answering techniques into the classroom, which is perhaps new, and we're asking teachers to be more mobile through the classroom, to walk through the classroom, to see what the learners are doing, they're going to come across issues. They're going to come across things that are new to them. So we want them to feel supported in that, and to recognise it's okay to make mistakes as long as you learn from them. So we build it to be directly transferable in that sense, and we support the teachers in doing so.
In Gauteng, we already have our system here where tablets has been introduced. It hasn't worked well because some of those tablets are just gone. They, people lose them, they're being stolen and so forth. Is this a workable solution for all schools in South Africa, bearing in mind that we have a high crime rate and, of course, illiteracy levels are very high in the country?
So we're tackling this in a number of different ways, because that question is a very large question. So in terms of security, one of the first things we did was to move away from being locked into one particular tablet to being agnostic to the hardware device. So anybody came to us with computer labs, for example, we can work in the computer labs, which are much more secure and can be locked down. The solution we have in a lot of schools, we tend to use a trolley where the tablets fit in and are locked in as well. We build a license fee into the tablet so that it needs to check back to base, if you like, to see that you're still current with the license, and you can then lock it down if it's not working. So if somebody has borrowed it, should we say, and taken it off site without permission, it locks down and becomes unusable. So that's the sort of security aspect of it. But it's more about developing the individuals to respect and trust and understand and develop it moving forward. We need to be working with all the stakeholders in the community to understand the value of that product. Because otherwise, yeah, it looks like a desirable, shiny tool, and that's not what it's about. It's the education in it that matters.
What is Moabo trying to achieve with its products in the end?
Ultimately, raise standards. Numeracy, literacy at their core, but across the curriculum. We're looking to enable learners to become much better learners. If you have much better learners, eventually you're going to get much better parents in terms of education, supporting the education system. We want to open the education system to include parents as well, recognising, they are perhaps struggling to engage with the subject material themselves. But right at the core of all this is to start with improving the teachers, make the teachers better teachers, give them the tools to do the job, invest in them, support them, help them to become better teachers, and that will progress to better learners, better standards moving forward.
Today, Edu Week is currently underway in Gallagher Estate here in Johannesburg. Are you working with the Department of Education and various other stakeholders to make Moabo more accessible to everyone?
We will always work with partners. We don't see ourselves as an island. I think there was a phrase that somebody used, which was the Moabo movement, which is being used because we are engaging with anybody that wants to come and work with us. So there are a number of foundations who are working on data analytics, for example. And one of the things that we firmly believe in is that data should improve education outcomes. You need to understand what's going on, analyse it, and develop that so you can support the teachers. We're happy to work with any stakeholders who are doing the same thing. That can be from hardware, other educational materials. We don't see that we are the only educational material provider in the market. We're happy to partner with others to do so. It's investing and working together for that greater goal.
There's always the fear of technology that is associated with cost and higher cost. How does it relate in terms of the products that you provide?
We've been working with some really great hardware providers to bring the cost of the tablets and the devices down and down and down. And we are not looking to make margin on the hardware. For us, we're happy to put that in almost at cost. A little bit in there for risk, but pretty much at cost. We think that we need to get into a point where it's much more sustainable. So we need people to be able to use the devices in a number of different ways. And we need them to be looking at the hardware as an investment, a capital investment, just to get over that hurdle and move forward.
People, teachers, children that want to get, schools that want to get in touch with you, how do they do that?
Well, the first thing to do is go to our website, moabo.com, and all our details are on there. And we have a great sales team and a great organisation here in South Africa who are leading the charge, and they can be contacted.
MWABO?
Yes.
.com.
BU.
BU at the end. Peter, I thank you so much for your time and joining us here in studio.
Thank you so much.
Sorry, I said Peter, it's Justin actually. Justin Riley, he is the CEO of Moabo here in South Africa. Wonderful project, I think. What do you think? We'll take a short break. We'll be right back after that.
Over 5% of the world's population, or 360 million people, has disabling hearing loss.
Sometimes babies are born that can't hear. And especially during the pregnancy where there's some infections that mom could pick up that can actually transmit that damage to the ear, and those children can be born deaf.
I don't look at myself as a disabled person. I looked at myself as Bruno, not with a disability. I don't have barriers. I use South African Sign Language because I have a language.
And unfortunately, we need to talk to the teenagers and the young people out there. I know it's now fine to go to the concerts and listen to that loud music, but you're actually damaging those little hair cells all the time. And you're not going to pay the price now. You're going to pay the price when you turn 45, 50. And then all of a sudden, we're going to see the damage done.
For all your health news, join Health Talk every Saturday from 9 to 10.
The Deputy President, Cyril Ramaphosa, is expected to address the South African Communist Party's National Congress in Boksburg today. Let's go to the event now live, where Bladen Zimande is addressing the crowd.
Of your allied formation, the South African Communist Party. ke basebetsi, Antena ke maburu, Tate Ramaphosa, Tibera baburu, Tate Ramaphosa, Tibera maburu, Antena ke basebetsi, Antena ke maburu. Tibera maburu, sa tibera maburu, antena kisi, antena kiba amandla, amandla. Viva South African Communist Party, viva! Viva SACP, viva! Viva ANC, viva! Viva COSATU, viva! Viva Sanko, viva! Long live the spirit of Joe Slovo, long live! Long live the spirit of Chris Hani, long live! Amandla! Comrades, Program Director, Comrade Blade Zimande, the General Secretary of the SACP, and official leaders of the SACP, Comrade Zokwane, and the other leaders who are office bearers, members of the SACP Central Committee, the leadership of the alliance components, COSATU, Sanko, leaders of the African National Congress, Deputy Secretary General Jesse Duarte, and members of the National Executive Committee of the ANC, international guests who are here, and I'm told that we have up to no less rather than 35 international guests who have come to this conference. It might be possible that the SACP has done better than what the ANC has done recently to have as many international guests as 35. We welcome you to the shores of our country, those who have come from far and afield from other countries. Comrade delegates and friends who are here. Comrade Beki Njali, I'm glad that you clarified one issue about this issue of contesting for positions, particularly in relation of you saying that you don't contest against a particular comrade when you want to get elected. You contest their position. Now that clarifies for me, and therefore I am ready to contest the position of General Secretary of the SACP. You see, in that way, I worked so well and so long with Comrade Blade. If he's standing for election as General Secretary, if I stand, I'm not contesting against him, but I'm contesting the position. So watch out, Comrade Blade. I may just get nominated by a few regions here or provinces, so sizawohlangana ebhalotini mna nawe ke. Comrades, on behalf of the entire leadership, and indeed the membership of the African National Congress, I bring you warm revolutionary greetings on this occasion of your 14th Congress. We are pleased as the ANC to have been honored with an invitation We knew that this Congress was going to happen, and we kept waiting for an invitation because we didn't just want to gate crash. And we waited and waited, and I kept checking with the Deputy Secretary General whether the invitation did indeed arrive, and she kept on saying, Comrade DP, let's wait, it hasn't arrived yet, we will see whether it does arrive. But finally the invitation arrived, and so therefore we are honored to be here, but also to have this opportunity to participate in what we regard as the most important Congress of the SACP in a long time. Comrade Begi, you may well be complaining that at your Central Committee meeting, there were only 4 or so delegates or representatives from the ANC. But you know, when I checked at the policy conference, there were tens and tens and tens of representatives from COSATU at ours. So you were very well welcomed. And we were very happy that COSATU was at the ANC policy conference. So take heart from that. We love you so much, and we bring so many of you to come and attend. Comrades, your Congress is taking place at a critical moment for our country, and indeed for the future of the people of our country. There is, we must admit, a lot of restlessness in our country as many of our people are pondering and asking themselves, how are we going to address the many challenges that face us as a country and as a people in relation to our politics, in relation to how we manage the economy of our country, particularly when we are now in a recession. They are also pondering and wondering, how are we going to address this whole question of the downgrading status that has been imposed on us? Our people are also wondering, how are we going to curb what they see as rampant corruption? And more importantly, they keep asking themselves, what are we going to do to address the issue of creating jobs and ridding our country of the scourge of inequality and poverty? These are matters that our people are concerned about. And these are matters that affect their lives on an ongoing basis. And it is in this context that your deliberations at this Congress, as well as the decisions and the programs that you are going to adopt, will have far-reaching implications for the direction as well as the character of the struggle for our national democratic society. So as you gather here, I'd like to say that be aware that you are involved in probably the most important endeavor as a Congress to address all these issues that now confront our country. And given this context, one of the key tasks of your Congress must be the recognition of the need to weave together the revolutionary, democratic, socialist, and trade union strands of the broad liberation movement into a tight alliance of formations that have a common approach towards the national democratic revolution and its objectives. This Congress must tie all these formations together into a very strong strand that is going to continue to achieve the objectives of the NDR. For as long as we remember, there are people outside our movement who have sought to define the relationship between the ANC and the SACP. 23 years ago, in October 1992, one apartheid minister, Minister of Justice Kobi Kutsie, said that the ANC would be well advised and well served to sever, in other words, to cut its links with the Communist Party, and especially one Chris Hani. That is what Kobi Kutsie said in 1992. Mpho Hani, ke a o dumedisa, ko bone o mona, ko dumedisa ka pelo e tshweu. A few months later, Chris Hani lay dead in a pool of blood in his driveway. By killing him, they thought that they would divide us. They thought that they would weaken us and possibly even destroy this relationship between the SACP and the ANC. But his death only served to bring us closer together and strengthen our resolve. While there is much that we do not know about the extent of the right-wing conspiracy behind Chris Hani's death, what we do know is that the enemies of our revolution have always seen the alliance between the ANC, the SACP, COSATU, and now SANCO as one of the greatest threats to their efforts to hold on to the privileges that they have so long enjoyed. To this day, there are many who seek to end this alliance. Even within our own ranks, comrades, there are some who, for whatever reason, continue to question the value of this alliance, and in ways that one does not understand, seek to find ways to hasten its death. As we have done for decades, and as we continue to do, we must resist each effort to destroy this alliance. This alliance was built through blood and struggle, and it must continue and continue forever. That's what I would say. To destroy the alliance between the ANC and the SACP would be indeed a grave mistake to which history will provide no absolution. We will have committed a grave historic error. The people of South Africa would not forgive such a reckless act because their well-being and prosperity is inextricably linked and bound to the success of the NDR that we are both committed to pursue. We know from the lived experience, comrades, of our struggle that together we are stronger. This is the time when we should remember what President O.R. Tambo said in 1980. The need for the unity of the patriotic and democratic forces of our country has never been greater than it is today. Our unity has to be based on honesty, he said, amongst ourselves, the courage to face reality, adherence to what has been agreed upon, and to principle. That is what Comrade O.R. Tambo said in 1980. And may I say, this remains very true even for this current moment, particularly when we are facing the type of challenges that we are facing. Your Congress is taking place when our movement, admittedly, is at its weakest. Our alliance is under great strain, and speaker after speaker, even yesterday with the General Secretary's report, we got a glimpse of how much strain that we are under. Comrade Begi as well said the same thing. Comrade Skhumbuzo said the same thing. At no other point in the history of our movement has factionalism and division been so brazen, so pronounced, and so confident. There is an African proverb that goes, when brothers fight to the death, a stranger inherits the home. Today our home is plagued by divisions. We all know too well some of the causes of these ructions within our house. We know them very well. The diagnostic report, comrades, that was tabled by the Secretary General of the ANC, Comrade Gwede Mantashe, at the ANC Policy Conference, together with other discussion documents on strategy and tactics and organizational renewal, describe how our structures and programs have been undermined by competition for resources, corruption, and the capture of the state institutions by families, individuals, and companies. This was clearly explored and articulated in that diagnostic report, and many of us participated in the debates thereof. Even as delegates gathered to deliberate on these issues, more and more information was emerging about the extent to which our state-owned enterprises have been looted, how individuals in positions of responsibility have benefited from actions that at best can be described as being unethical, but at worst as being criminal. There is no single day, as we will all have observed as we read newspapers, that passes that we do not gain greater insight into a network of illicit relationships, of illicit contracts, deals, and appointments that are designed to benefit just one family and their associates. Yesterday, I was pained when I read a statement from a religious organization that was calling for action against what they see happening in the body politic of our country. And they said in their statement, this pained me, the Gupta email leaks paint a grim picture, they said. Billions of taxpayer money have been siphoned into Gupta-owned businesses without any benefit to the South African economy. State-owned enterprises like Eskom, SAA, SABC, PRASA, and so on are all hemorrhaging billions as a result of endemic corruption, gross incompetence, and maladministration. They continue, the Justice Department is also paralyzed. The NPA, the Hawks, and the SAPS are in disarray with several corruption investigations underway to determine leadership fitness. The full extent, they say, of government corruption is not known. This religious organization says. But what we do know is frightening enough. Corruption, fraud, racketeering, and the brazen theft of public funds are so widespread that barely a week passes without a news story emerging that exposes public sector corruption. More ominously, they say, is the fact that South Africa is losing its sovereignty. Besides Gupta control of many state enterprises, a growing list of foreign organizations are influencing social policy in the country, end quote. Now, when things like these are spewing out in our national discourse, we cannot turn a blind eye to these revelations, nor can we keep quiet. I heard accusations that the SACP, and particularly the General Secretary, had kept quiet on a number of other allegations that have been made. And I heard on television Comrade Blade Nzimande responding to that. We cannot keep quiet. We cannot, under the weight of ever more disclosures, become numbed to what this means for the country, for our people, and the national democratic revolution. We now know without any shred of uncertainty that billions of rands of public resources have been diverted into the pockets of a few. We also know that we, as taxpayers in this country, also paid for a lavish wedding that took place in Sun City. We also know that. These are resources that rightly belong to the people of South Africa. These are resources with which we were meant to build schools, we were meant to build houses, we were meant to build clinics. These are resources with which we were meant to support emerging farmers, small businesses, and cooperatives. These are resources that could have been used to fund higher education for the poor and to improve the quality of health in our country. Instead, they've been diverted into other people's pockets and companies, state resources. Should we remain quiet when all this happens? No, we cannot. And I am one of those who will not remain quiet. We cannot be quiet, comrades. This we cannot do because it is unacceptable and it should not be happening in our democracy. To many people, state capture may seem far removed from their everyday lives. Unfortunately and tragically, state capture has already had a profoundly damaging impact on our economy, on our state, and on the well-being of our people. We need to act now to prevent any further damage. Now, what we need to do is that this judicial inquiry, which, by the way, those who criticize the SACP and who criticize Comrade Blade for saying nothing, he was amongst the first to call for a judicial inquiry. And we are now saying this judicial independent inquiry must be appointed without any further delay. The house is burning. Let us appoint this judicial inquiry. But we are also saying our law enforcement agencies must act with speed, and they must also act with purpose to investigate all these allegations and to bring those who are responsible to book. But more importantly, we also need to go out and recover the monies that have been stolen. Those monies must be brought back. They belong to the people of South Africa. Because, comrades, if state capture is left unchecked, It can undermine the very foundations of our democracy. It is critical that the institutions we establish in the Constitution to safeguard our democracy should hold firm. We have outstanding institutions in our country, and these are the institutions that we must defend, institutions that we must protect, institutions whose integrity we must enhance. Because if we leave them to be captured, all is lost in our country. We call on all South Africans to support and respect these institutions and to defend and advance our democracy. Importantly, as the revolutionary democratic movement, as the alliance, we need to draw a line in the sand and say we will not allow our institutions to be used, to be captured, and to be abused for the interests of just a few people. We will not allow that. We need to mobilize our structures and our supporters to oppose this whole concept of state capture and corruption in whatever form it takes. We need to send a clear message, comrades, that we will not protect those within our ranks who are also involved in these activities. And we will not tolerate those who use our structures to defend these interests and misappropriate revolutionary slogans as a shield against critical scrutiny. It is a matter of great concern that a public relations company, comrades, from outside of our country was able to so effectively poison the political discourse in our country, in our movement, to advance their own clients' narrow interests. It says much about our lack of political cohesion and ideological clarity that this company, Bell Pottinger, was able to manipulate some of our own political concepts to fuel divisions and confusion amongst us. And some amongst us were so gullible, so believing, had so much faith in slogans that were crafted in London, brought here to confuse us, and they so held on to all these slogans as if they are prepared to die just for the slogans that were crafted by Bell Pottinger. It is a shame on us. But herein lies the real challenge to the alliance, but particularly to the SACP, which has throughout its existence been at the forefront, Comrade Blade, of deepening and sharpening the political understanding and ideological approach of the members of our movement. We therefore look to the SACP and to this Congress to once again take the lead in building a cadre with the necessary analytical tools that are needed to understand the prevailing environment and the political consciousness to effect fundamental change. This is necessary because our people are watching with grave concern, and they are also watching in some fear, wondering if we are still capable of leading them. They hear in our language, in our ideas, a hankering after our past victories, yet they long most and they are most concerned about the future. They want to hear how the ANC and the broader alliance will heal itself. They want to hear how we are going to revive and transform our economy and how we are going to improve their lives. And this is a moment when we dare not fail our people. Although the proverbial brothers who always fight amongst themselves and can be at each other's throats, amongst us in this country and in our movement, I think there is still a need to be optimistic. Our people do have grounds for hope, and that hope has arisen after the ANC policy conference, because we have now embarked as a movement and as a country on a journey of renewal. Following the ANC policy conference, many of us felt that we are now determined to move ahead to renew the African National Congress and to unite our movement. We have now set upon this journey, and the rank and file members of our movement have actually set us on this journey so that we seek a renewal of the values, the organizational integrity, and the revolutionary program of the ANC and the Alliance. This conference that we've just emerged from Congress was a real milestone. It was an important and a crucial milestone on this journey that we have embarked upon. It has established a platform for the renewal and the unity of the ANC and the Alliance. The delegates to this conference, were forthright in identifying the challenges facing the movement, and they were determined in their efforts to find solutions. Having been guided by a brutal analysis of our challenges through the diagnostic report and the organizational renewal and the strategy and tactics, where we took off all the gloves and spoke in real truth about the challenges that face us, I believe we've now emerged out of this conference, leading up to our conference in December, having built a platform that we now need to strengthen, to bolster this platform, and we see this Congress as being part of that strengthening of the platform that we need to unite our movement. This Congress, therefore, provides an important opportunity to build on that platform. It provides an opportunity for the Communist Party to provide leadership in determining a program to build and to unite the Alliance. Out of this Congress, we do not expect decisions, resolutions that are going to weaken the Alliance. We expect, on the contrary, decisions that are going to strengthen and build and unite the Alliance. Now, this process clearly, comrades, must be based on shared values and a common strategic objective. It should not be based on anger. It should not be based on being short-termist, where we look only at the short term. It should be based on looking at the long term. But as we do this, we must also look at what we have achieved. What we have achieved is phenomenal. We have achieved a great deal that has advantaged our people in many ways. But what we also know is that there is still a long way to go. And this is the moment when friends do not part. This is the moment when friends unite to move forward with greater strength. This is the moment when we do not weaken ourselves. Yes, there may be amongst us, within the ranks of this Congress, where we are saying the SACP must now sue for state power. I know that. It has a wonderful ring to it. It has a wonderful ring that, yes, one day when we go to the union buildings, we must find all red flags at the union buildings with the SACP in power. Yes, it has a very tempting, alluring, a very attractive, wangathi ngaba mnandi lento if ingayenzeka. I know that. But comrades, we've got to face reality. And the reality that we must face is that as a revolutionary movement, we must never take decisions by what drives our emotions. We must never take decisions out of anger because we are angry with the ANC for, having not done anything on corruption and so forth. Or we are angry at the Guptas, we are angry at whoever. We must, as a revolutionary movement, comrades, we must, as a revolutionary movement, do what our forebears have always done. They lead us in the SACP, lead us in the ANC. They have always been calculating leaders. They have always been based their decisions on what will advantage the masses of our people most. Now, as you ponder at this conference, and as you look at this motion of whether the SACP should go off on its own and contest elections to go and sue for state power, I would want you to pause before you sign on that resolution. Pause, kancane, comrade. Pause just for a minute. You can see, I am reading your mind. I know where you want to go. But I'm saying pause for a minute and ask yourself, are we better off united or divided? Is what O.R. Tambo said still holding true or not? Are we better as one strand, or are we better off as two strands? ANC on one side contesting elections and the SACP on one side contesting elections. You may even delude yourself. We will be in a coalition. When we get there, the cupboard is empty. So, comrades, let us think about this. Whatever we do, what we do must be underpinned by the need to serve our people. It must be underpinned first and foremost by how we are going to advance the interests of the working class and the poor. We expect, comrades, that this Congress will clearly define the role of the SACP in the national democratic revolution and how it is going to shape an alliance program for the next decade and beyond. How we are going to be long-term players. We expect that this Congress will look beyond the challenges of the present towards the strategic decisions that will determine the future of the country and indeed the role of the alliance as we take our country forward. We need to look beyond the immediate towards the society we all seek to achieve, and with precision and great clarity to chart the actions that we will undertake to build that society. The ANC Policy Conference has placed economic growth, jobs, transformation of our economy at the center of the policies that we need to adopt. And we therefore look to this Congress to deliberate on the outcomes of the ANC Policy Conference, but because the SACP is an independent formation, to begin to craft policies that are going to advance the interests of our people, but more particularly the NDR. We look to this Congress to come up with positions that will sharpen the measures that the ANC Policy Conference looked at. The ANC, the SACP needs to support and enrich the discussion that is now going to take place in ANC branches, as well as policy proposals before they are adopted by the 54th National Conference of the African National Congress. And we look to this Congress, comrades, to provide crisp, clear, and forward-looking positions that we need to take to reignite growth and create jobs. And when we do so, comrades, all we ask is that let us come with practical solutions. Let us go beyond slogans. Let us just go beyond just merely giving lip service to the issue of job creation. We look to this Congress to come up with real practical proposals that are going to ensure that we do create, our economy create jobs. We know that we cannot advance transformation to any meaningful extent unless we create employment on a massive scale, particularly for the youth. For as long as 1/3 of working-age South Africans are outside the productive economy, then all our efforts to redress the injustices of the past will have no value whatsoever. But we cannot create these jobs if the economy is not growing. And the economy will not grow unless we achieve higher levels of fixed investment. This Congress must therefore go beyond what we've always talked about in the past and look at clever, innovative ways in which we can address this. The idea articulated in the ANC's strategy and tactics that the ANC's approach to monopoly capital in particular and capital in general is one of unity and struggle, cooperation and contestation, is therefore not a mere theoretical construct. And we would like the party to engage with this because that's precisely what caused confusion at the ANC conference. It is rooted, this whole process, in our actual experience of an economy in which wealth, power, and control are concentrated in a few mainly white hands. It is rooted in our actual experience of seeking to stimulate growth and investment while at the same time undertaking a program of radical economic transformation. We look to this Congress to produce practical proposals on critical issues such as land and agrarian reform, industrialization and beneficiation, decentralization of ownership of the commanding heights of our economy, education, skills development, health, and many others. These need to be part of defining for the Alliance an unambiguous and unapologetic and ambitious program for social and economic change. Let us use the outcomes of this Congress, the proposals from the ANC Policy Conference, and the decisions of the COSATU Central Committee to articulate a clear economic agenda for the Alliance. And clearly, this is what is going to call for a summit of all the members of the Alliance so that we can iron out all these issues and craft a much clearer way forward. Let us use the months leading up to the ANC 54th National Conference to craft a program that all members of the Alliance will support and mobilize their members to advance. We must place the poor and the working class at the center of all the programs that we embark upon. It must address the working conditions of industrial workers, just as it must improve the wage and job security of the farm worker. It must prepare graduates for the workplace, and it must find training opportunities for school leavers. It must enable a proliferation of successful small and medium enterprises and co-ops, and support a new generation of industrialists. It must create jobs that are sustainable for the skills that our people have today, and also develop the skills our people will need for the jobs of tomorrow. Though our challenges are many and complex, comrades, we must act decisively and with the necessary amount of urgency to defend our gains, to defend our revolution, and to advance the overall interests of our people. And we must act now to unite, to strengthen, and to renew the alliance. Comrades, if there ever was a time when we need to be united and to strengthen our alliance, this is the time. It is when we are weak that we need to strengthen ourselves. It is when we are disunited that we need to unite. We must act now to revive and also to transform our economy. We are confident that this Congress that has so many communists who are armed with analytical tools, communists who have always been disciplined, communists who have always been driven by a commitment to advance the interests of the working class. When we are armed at this Congress with comrades who are determined to ensure that we rid our alliance of all these challenges that we face, with this type of strength that we have in this Congress, we cannot but come up with the best decisions that are going to take this country forward. It is this Congress that is meant to provide leadership. It is this Congress that is meant to provide clarity on a number of issues without putting pressure on all of you comrades who are seated here as delegates and as the leadership, whether incoming or outgoing. I have to say to you, you have a heavy burden on your shoulders. The country is looking forward to the SACP, who've always been armed with greater clarity and wisdom. We look forward to you to come up with solutions that are going to take South Africa forward. Initially, I said, our country, there is a lot of restlessness in our country. Our people are asking themselves a lot of questions, and I alluded to some of them and what needs to be done to address some of those challenges. But in the end, we need to find solutions, and the SACP is well placed to come up with good solutions, to propose what will move this country forward. And today, you have this opportunity. Each one of you coming from the four corners of our country, representing the aspirations of our people. You are the ones that the country is looking forward to. Do not fail our people. Come up with the solutions that they need. Amandla! Viva ANC, viva! Viva SACP, viva! Forward with SACP, forward! Amandla! Ngiyabonga.
All right, live there from the SACP's Congress, listening in to the Deputy President's address to members. Let's just take you through some